DOJ is also investigating complaints that Greyhound and Flixbus refused to help some passengers use wheelchair lifts and failed to maintain them. In 2016, Greyhound paid out passengers with disabilities to resolve similar claims it violated the Americans with Disabilities Act. Greyhound denied it broke the law, but agreed to provide ADA employee training and hire a compliance manager. Flix North America declined to comment to NPR on the new DOJ investigation, citing that it's a legal matter. Kristen Wright, NPR News, Washington.
On Wall Street, the Dow was down about 140 points. This is NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Soraya Wintersmith. Henry Santoro is away. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey is defending her handling of the influx of migrants into the state during the first portion of her term. The Boston Herald is out with the story and documents showing that she was warned about a surge of migrants and dwindling state shelter capacity months before she took office. The warning came from Republican gubernatorial candidate Mike Neely when he was Secretary of Housing and Economic Development under Governor Charlie Baker. The warning, the Herald writes, came with no major recommendations other than to spend money and expand emergency assistance shelter capacity. A spokesperson for Healey says the governor could not have foreseen the scope of need and took actions like implementing a length of stay limit and requirements for background checks and proof of Massachusetts residency. And the U.S. Department of Justice is out with a list of cities, states, and counties it identifies as having policies that impede enforcement of federal immigration laws. It's no surprise to some that list includes Boston. It also includes the states of Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Vermont. In a statement along with the list, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi called the policies harmful and said the Department of Justice will continue to bring litigation against these identified jurisdictions. In sports, the Red Sox are back for Game 2 of their 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals. First pitch is at 7:10, and we're looking at cloudy and cool temperatures today in the mid-70s. Boston Public Radio is up next. You're listening to GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Jarl and Pamela Mohn, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts. And the Public Welfare Foundation, committed to advancing transformative youth and criminal justice reforms.
Welcome to BPR on GBH and NEPM. I am Jim Browdy. Marjorie has the day off. Sitting in is the former Secretary of Public Safety, Andrea Cabral. Hi, Andrea. How are you?
Hello, Jim. How are you?
I'm quite well. Nice to see you. We are live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're back at the library tomorrow. Jared Bowen will join us. Presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin will join us here in person at the library, as will State Auditor Diana DiZoglio to give us the latest on whatever happened to question 1 embraced by 7 out of 10 voters on the ballot. We'll start the show today with AI and you. We're not talking about A1, as Trump's Secretary of Education called it, AI, because it seems like artificial intelligence is everywhere. It's lurking in your Outlook, attempting to help you write that email you've been avoiding. It's in Google Docs, Google Search, on your shiny new iPhone or Samsung TV, monitoring and always offering a helping hand. Or maybe it's not that helpful. And I think I speak for everyone listening when I say we are tired of screaming representative into the customer service line void, only to be met with a useless AI bot response. So to recap, no human on the other end of the phone, no human on the other end of the computer, and if you're looking for a new job, there's also no actual human in many cases reviewing your resume or actually even interviewing you for the job. The phone and text lines are open. Human representatives at GBH Brighton are standing by at 877-301-8970. Have you had it up to here with AI everything, everywhere, all at once, or you're learning to live with computer overlords, letting them answer all your Google questions, even if the answers are usually totally made up? Again, the number is 877-301-8970. You fed up?
Oh, I'm fed up. I mean, I've been like this from the very... I remember co-hosting with you. This was a while ago when AI was first being talked about, and we were Andy Anatko, one of our regulars, was one of the guests. And I said, I'm always going to feel the way I feel right now when I pose this question, and it's like one of the 7 signs of the apocalypse. And I know people say that all the time about advances, and usually the response is, well, that's because you really don't understand it, and you'll get used to it. People, I'm sure, said it about microwave ovens and cable TV and all kinds of things.
I think they said it about fire a few thousand years ago.
I'm sure that's absolutely true. But there is an insidious nature to AI that, because of has the capacity to learn from us and overtake us at a rate that we've never experienced with any other technology.
I couldn't agree more. And there are a couple of things to add to this. One, in terms of the customer service thing, I'm sure you've had this experience too. When you get so fed up, when you've hit 18 numbers, you've screamed representative, as I say, you make a mental calculation. I'm calling them about $42 they owe me. Right. Is the $42 worth the aggravation? It generally isn't. And what you do is hang up, and that's part of the strategy. Right. They don't just save money with having bots as opposed to humans. They save money because out of frustration, you give up. That's one. Number two, if people thought I was making it up when I mentioned the interviews, you and I were talking this morning about a story that got a decent amount of play. The Red Sox were interviewing for a job recently. And according to a couple of news outlets, one person, a number of people were interviewed by AI, and incidentally, the Red Sox aren't denying it. The general manager, Breslow, said it was, initial interviews just to filter out because there's so many applicants. One applicant alleged that his or her first 5 interviews were done by artificial intelligence. I don't know if he ever got to a 6th or she ever got to a 6th for a human, but that's not just happening at the Red Sox. At entry levels, that's happening a lot of places. Would you do an interview with a bot?
Probably not. I mean, there's a certain, expectation you have when you're applying for a job, whether you're actually qualified for it or not, that a person, you'll be talking to a person who will assess you, will assess your qualifications. But Jim, it wasn't that long ago that companies were being faulted for outsourcing their call centers to places like India.
That's a great point.
AI doesn't cost you anything. You have to pay the people in the call centers in another country to do that job for you. AI perfects the art of screening people or being unhelpful to them, if regardless of what they're calling about, and it doesn't cost you a dime. The other thing that adds insult to injury, I'll just say, is when the AI that answers the customer service number gives you a limited number of ways to get in. Like, I need more information, right? I can't let you talk to a human because I need more information. Here are the 3 things you can tell me you're calling about that may or may not result in my permission to get you to a human, and none of those things are the reason you're calling.
By the way, here's what you get. Just to get you as enraged as we appear to be, here's what you hear when you ask to speak to a human at customer service.
In order to transfer you to a representative, I need to know more information.
How enraging.
Completely.
Here's a good text, by the way, from Anonymous. This is only temporary. AI will kill us as soon as it can produce its own energy supply.
Well, that's inevitable.
That's probably next.
That's absolutely true.
877-301-8970 is the number. Do you want to take a call?
Let's talk to Kate over in Hanover. Hi, Kate.
Hello, Kate. Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I am of the very strong belief that we are using AI the wrong way. I've seen so many people using it to write books or create art, and it's just so frustrating. That is the thing humans should be doing, and AI should be to do the very mundane things.
Are you on speakerphone? Are you on speakerphone, or are you at the bottom of a well? Where are you?
I'm so sorry.
Where are you?
All right, is this better?
Yeah, that's much better.
I hate to do this. I think you got to start the whole damn thing all over again. Go ahead, Kate. Go.
We shouldn't be using it for creative things. We should be using it to do tasks that humans don't need to do.
But how do you police that? Once you make the technology available to corporations, to individuals, to anybody who wants it, how do you police it? Can you actually say to people that there's a wrong way to use it?
Well, you can, of course, but I would rather have a program like Siri just that's already in place get better. Because, right now I can say, Siri, can you call someone? But I can't say, hey, can you open this specific playlist for me or like a specific email and read it to me. So I would rather have AI that's technically already in place get better to actually help us than have kind of useless feeling AI.
Hey, Kate, thank you kindly for your call. We appreciate it.
That makes perfect sense, but people are going to
877-301-8970.
decide for themselves what they think is the appropriate use for it. And for many people, it's going to be, how do I let AI make the shortest distance between 2 points a straight line? And that's what they're going to use it for.
Here's Harmony in Providence. I called the electric company yesterday to talk to someone about my bill. I got an AI bot and had to recall 3 times because God forbid you breathe. The AI bot processes your breath as a request.
That's right.
And sends you into a dark hole of everything but what you need. I hate it here.
That is so right.
That's a pretty good
yeah.
one. That is
I didn't understand your response. And it's like, I didn't say anything, but you breathed. And that's the problem.
877-301-8970. And by the way, if you have not, we've played this about 1,000 times. If people think we're exaggerating what Linda McMahon, who is Trump's Secretary of Education, said, she's testifying. And by the way, she says it about a dozen times. We just picked 8 seconds or 9 seconds. Here's a little bit of the Secretary of Education talking about what most people think is AI.
There is a school system that's going to start making sure that first graders or even pre-Ks have A1 teaching every year starting that far down in the grade.
The Secretary of Education. What is this? I mean, it makes you laugh, but it's really appalling.
You weren't here the day I mentioned this. A day or two after McMahon did this, Jimmy Kimmel, who always sends people out to Hollywood Boulevard or wherever. I don't know where he sent them out. He has a reporter out there who is holding bottles of A1 steak sauce, and every little kid that comes by, they ask him, he hands them a bottle of A1 steak sauce, says, take this to school. Do you think it'll be helpful in your work? And she is the Secretary of Education.
And hell-bent on dismantling the entire Secretariat. Dan in Randolph says, soon you're not going to know if it's AI anymore. And I think Dan is absolutely right. That, to Kate's point about perfecting it, that's what's going to be perfected so that you can't tell that it's AI anymore.
If anybody, we don't take calls out of order ordinarily, but if anybody's actually been interviewed for a job by a bot, we'd love to hear from you. And if you tell that to our colleague back in Brighton, we'll put you on the top of the list.
I think we had a texter who said that they were
I missed that.
interviewed by a bot. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Martha and Randolph. Martha, welcome to BPR. Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Martha.
So I wasn't interviewed by a bot. However, I did interview a candidate who I could see was clearly AI prompting, and we were asking them these questions like, we're a tech company, and, we just wanted to understand, like, business logic, like how they would handle certain situations. And there would be a pause in the candidate, and then I would see them typing, and then they would give me back this ChatGPT response. It was quite terrible. That disqualified them for us because we want people to be able to solve problems, not just prompted to an AI.
So basically, what we're headed for is AI bots interviewing each other. If it's happening on both ends, if the person interviewing you is an AI agent, and then the person who is being interviewed uses AI to answer, then they're just talking to each other?
I'm giving up on that one. That would be quite detrimental to everything.
It would be funny if you got the job anyway, right? You never even really participated in the interview process and they offered you the job.
Hey, Martha, thank you for the call. Karen Belmont says, forget interviews using AI. Every applicant is using AI. Our hiring manager is trying to figure out a way to sift out applications that are not completed by a breathing human being.
That's exactly what we were just saying. No, it's true.
Well, it's good news. 877-301-8897. Let's go to Hanover, and Jamie is around. Hi, Jamie. How are you?
2 calls from Hanover already this morning.
Hello.
Hi, Jamie.
Hello, Jamie.
Hi. Thanks so much for taking my call.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to point out that one of the things that's missed in the conversation is the environmental impact.
Great point.
Especially with the water consumption. And, us leaning on ChatGPT to answer silly questions or to, do things that we don't need it for costs huge amount of water, and we're going to run out. So we got to stop.
That's a very good point, by
Why
the way.
don't you
The
hear
drain
more about
on.
that?
Well, there have been some stories about these things, these monstrous buildings, like they look like the size of small towns.
Right.
And the energy sap is totally huge, and we should have mentioned it. We didn't, and thank you for doing it. You know, speaking of the customer service, I am, admittedly, I have no business sense, but I'll plow ahead anyway. If I was deciding between two companies to provide a particular service or to sell me something, and one of the companies said to me in advance, if you have any problem with this product or service, I will, and you call this number, you will get a human being. And they further said to me, however, it's going to cost 10% more than the other thing. I'd pay the 10% in 2 seconds if I knew up front that there was a human at the end of the train if there's a problem.
Well, what a shame that you'd have to actually, that someone would monetize that, and that you would have to actually consider paying more to talk to a human being. I mean, part of what struck me when we decided to do this as a talker, part of what struck me was I had just recently read about the job growth numbers. People aren't looking for jobs. People are opting out of looking for jobs. And part of it, and you're hearing it more from Gen Z than any other group, is people don't want to talk to AI bots.
Yeah.
And so they're basically saying, I'm not even going to bother to apply for that job. I'm going to go someplace else. And what they're finding out is more and more companies are using AI, so their options are being narrowed. They're applying for fewer jobs, and that's why the searches are down.
I couldn't agree more. Anonymous Texter says, I am a bot, and I don't like your attitude. I'm coming to get you. Stop breathing in my ear. That's pretty good,
That
actually.
is very, very good.
Eddie, you're in Warwick, Rhode Island. What's up? Eddie.
Hi, Eddie.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry.
Sorry, no, you called us, but whatever. Hi, great to talk to you. What's going on? Eddie. Eddie, this is how it works. You call us, then we say hi, thanks for the call, and then you say, here's why I'm calling. Go ahead.
Talk about the environmental impact, but then I heard you said about if you've been interviewed by an AI bot, which I have.
Oh.
And it was a first-round interview, which is kind of funny because it was for an environmental position.
That's great.
Which is a little kooky.
Oh, wow.
But it was a horrible, terrifying situation. It was, I do an interview. It's kind of a back and forth a bit. You ask the interviewees a couple questions at the end.
Oh.
Oh, we lost him.
Bland questions. Hello?
Yeah, we I think you had a call coming in or something. Yeah, bland questions, bland whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
It was bland questions, and then the best part was too. It was a video where they recorded your face to see to see how well you were holding eye contact with the camera.
Oh my God!
And you're talking to a bot.
It was a very dystopian. Yeah, it was.
Hey Eddie, I think you're getting a lot of calls. One quick question: were you made aware by the interviewer, if I can call him that they were a bot, or you just figured it out by whatever?
No, not ahead of time.
That is insane.
And,
How
and
about
the
at
reason
least
they don't
telling
tell
you? Because they won't do the interview.
Because people won't do the interview,
Eddie,
and then their
thanks for the
numbers
call.
go down.
Our colleagues
So-
looked up this environmental thing. You want to read that?
Yeah, the MIT Technology Review, May 2025, said by 2028, the researchers at MIT estimate that the power going to AI-specific purposes is going to rise between 165 and 326 terawatt hours per year. That's more than all electricity currently used by U.S. data centers for all purposes. It's enough to power 22% of U.S. households each year, and it would generate the same emissions as driving over 300 billion miles, which is over 1,600 round trips to the sun from the Earth.
That's good news, I'd say.
It's incredible.
It is incredible. I prefer A1, actually. It's
I
less
do,
harmful
yeah.
to the environment
Yeah.
and all those things. Amy, where are you? You're in Mansfield. Are you? Yes, you are. Hi.
Hi, Amy.
Amy?
Hey.
Hi.
Yeah. Great, thanks.
Sure.
So my thoughts here, I'm in the job search now, and it's not only that we're seeing AI blocking getting through the whole selection process.
Mm-hmm.
It's even once you do get through, you talk to a human, they say, so what are your thoughts on AI in the workplace? And you have to come up with something really smart and really, I am so on top of this technology. So
you know what people do? Their go-to is, oh, I don't use AI to help me write. I use it to challenge my thoughts. And then you have to come out with all these really smart prompts that you use when you do use AI, because you can't say you don't, because then it looks like you don't know what you're doing, right? So that's my 2 cents on AI.
Well, that's another upbeat call. Amy, thank you very much for your call there.
So one anonymous texter says to us that they use AI to answer all the yearly employee evaluation questions that they're supposed to answer, because let's be honest, nobody is reading them. I do foresee a world where it's bots talking to bots and people pretending that that's not true. That's basically where we're headed.
Here's another good one. Lorna Jane texts this. I run a small executive search firm for the nonprofit sector. I recently got this lovely email from a recent candidate. Quote, I'm just reaching out to say thank you. Thus far, you have been the only human interaction throughout my job search. Thank you for the time you took initially and for your human response during the review and rejection process. Thanks for being the bright light in what is otherwise a pretty grueling process. He was rejected, or person was rejected, and still wrote that incredibly generous note to the rejecter because they were human.
I wonder if there are people out there that think that not using AI for these kinds of purposes is somehow regressive, that using a human is somehow, we're sort of, what it is that we're gaining by taking humans out of the process for this. I mean, the hiring for positions is where everybody starts in, a job, no matter where they are. Taking the human element out of that, the ability to look into someone's face and assess what you think of them, what do you foresee would be lost over the years by ending up with a workforce that was completely initially screened out by AI?
Well, I guess they would say that that AI, I don't know this to be true, but I assume what they'd say is, based on what the guy Breslow from the Red Sox said when he was confronted with the issue of AI interviews, which he acknowledged had happened, is they just do the basic screening, and then we have plenty of opportunity when you have the basic requirements to have that human interaction to find out if you are the right person for the job, to which you say...
I've done a ton of hiring over the course of my career, and I can't tell you the number of people that at first glance, you would screen out. And then you see something, you read again, you see something, or you do a little research, or you simply ask them a question about something that's questionable on their resume, as opposed to just dismissing them, and you find out all of this stuff about the person, and you realize that they're worthy of being hired.
Just occurred to me, I have an opportunity to correct something for which I took a lot of heat. I take a lot of heat because I own a Tesla, to which I always say I bought it before Elon Musk totally lost his mind, which I know is satisfactory to almost no one, but it is to me.
I'm still going to key your car.
And I mentioned, I think it was you who did it, I mentioned that when I had my first repair problem in my Tesla, I typed in what the problem was and asked for a repair date, and I didn't even have to go in. They fixed it through a software change. That was praising them. But now when you type in something, this is even a year and a half later, more often than not, the rote response from the bot is not at all responsive. And this is at Tesla, which is pretty advanced kind of operation. So I hope that atones for my praise of, do you see what bonus he got, by the way, to keep him there for the next 2 years?
No.
$30 billion
shareholders are insane.
Payment from his board of directors.
It's completely insane.
I say that $30 billion.
Well, he was getting $59 billion, so I guess that's reasonable.
No, the court knocked that down, the $59 billion, so he ended up with only 30.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear more of your feelings on AI and take your calls and texts next. I'm Andrea Cabral. I'm in for Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. We're live from the Boston Public Library, and we're also streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
If the tag on your clothes says made in the USA, what do you assume about the working conditions of the people who made it?
Would like a generous estimate be like every single person who touched this piece got 40 cents?
40 cents is probably too high.
I'm Elsa Chang. We dive into the reality of garment workers in America on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Boston Speaker Series, continuing its 2025-2026 season at Symphony Hall with 7 evenings, featuring Tipping Point author Malcolm Gladwell, Dr. Anthony Fauci, Ken Burns, and former National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster. BostonSpeakers.org. And Cornerstone at Canton, an assisted living community with services designed to help seniors age in place, offering respite and trial stay options to help during recovery or when exploring new living arrangements. More at cornerstonecanton.com.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. I'm Jim Browdy. Marjorie is off for a couple of days. Andrea Cabral, Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety, former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety, is filling in. We're live at the library, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're talking about AI taking over everything, essentially. Here's Janet from Hopkinton. Both interviews, customers, everything, searches, everything. Janet from Hopkinton. I called the new local pizza place to place an order. The order taker, this is at a pizza place, was AI. I can only tell because it wasn't a very good listener, except to precise information it was looking to match. Fortunately, the order worked and the text updates were
AI is routine at places at the bigger chains like Burger King and McDonald's. That's AI taking your order.
Can I play? I was driving in this morning. I was listening to Steve Inskeep, whom I love, on NPR.
Oh, yeah.
And he has this guy on Morning Edition. His name is Eric, I can't pronounce his last name, from Stanford Institute for Human-Centered Stuff, about his thoughts on using AI.
I think it's Rinjofsen.
Thank you very much. How do you know that?
Because I'm Scandinavian.
Yep. You look Scandinavian, actually. Okay. As I was saying, they're supposed to be talking about AI generally for creative purposes, and this fabulous exchange happened. First, that guy, here he is.
I've been using ChatGPT to write, poems to my wife and songs that I couldn't have done previously. Maybe next year I'll be making movies.
Let me stop you there because somebody's going to be listening and saying, wait a minute, you asked ChatGPT to write a poem to your wife?
Full disclosure, I did tell her where it came from, but somehow she still appreciated it.
She didn't want something
it was
a
so
little
funny.
more from your heart?
You would have appreciated it, Steve. Nobody would have not thought it was funny what I wrote for her.
Oh, yes, they would.
With help.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, they would. Good for Inskeep, by the way. That was a great little moment there. Where do you want to go?
Well, eventually, you're going to be able to use ChatGPT for your honeymoon. Should you have something better to do, maybe they can sort of, stand in for you.
Well, let's stay away from that. Go ahead.
We have an anonymous texter that's asking whether or not videos are going to be allowed in court. Because of, you could use AI to alter a video. If you've got a Ring video camera and it shows somebody breaking in, couldn't the defendant simply say, that's not me?
Well, variation on a theme.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to you about this when you were a mere guest on whatever it is, Thursday. There's yet another case where an AI thing is testifying at either a sentencing part of a case
as a part of a victim impact statement.
Yeah, exactly.
It's someone who's deceased, a Parkland survivor who's
dead.
deceased.
I'm sorry, that's what it was.
But the relatives have submitted that. So we'll talk about, to the texter, we'll talk about that on Thursday.
By the way, anonymous texter makes a very good point we should have made. Artificial intelligence in the White House has been replaced by natural stupidity. So that actually is much more appealing.
Actually, that might not be a bad idea to replace everybody there with AI.
Thank you. Where do you want to go?
Let's go to Steve, who's calling us from Berlin, is it? Is that Berlin? I don't have my glasses
That's
on.
it.
Hi.
All right.
What's
Hi,
up?
Steve.
Yeah, we say Berlin out here.
Berlin,
Whatever
sorry.
it is, we're sorry. Hi.
No, it's okay. The deal is, I know people who've been taken advantage of on dating sites. People say there's someone who they're not, and they pry you for information, and vulnerable people can really be taken advantage of by these bots.
So is the profile, the person behind the profile that you're talking to, that's an AI created profile?
Oh yeah, and an AI created picture.
Right.
Well, I mean, before AI, people were putting up phony photos. I'm not suggesting it's fine, but it didn't require high tech for people to. I never understood. I know this is not an original thought. Thank you, Stephen, for the call. I never understood at all. Except I never. At some point, you're going to meet this person,
right?
And when you aren't that person and don't look like that person and aren't a millionaire and aren't, whatever, an Olympic champion, like let's say George Santos, for example, how do what do you do then?
But that's if you intend to meet them. I think the point that Steve was making
They're
is
just
that
getting off on
it's
the
just
thing?
it's a
Oh, maybe
data
you're right.
it's their
Maybe
data
you're right.
mining and
You're
getting you
probably
to give which you shouldn't be doing. I don't know why anybody would give information to somebody they've only met online.
An anonymous texter says, I just asked Alexa to play GBH. She said she couldn't find it. Clearly, she didn't like the AI topic. And Penny in Wenham says, AI customer service is like self-checkout at CVS. No, help is not on the way, which is a very
Well,
funny.
wasn't that sort of that was a very that's a form of AI, right? The self-service checkout is a form of AI,
Yeah.
and we always talk about Market Basket not using it.
Yeah, isn't that amazing
Yeah.
that they don't? Not amazing. It's because what kind of joint
Right,
it is, by
exactly.
the way. Melissa in Cambridge, you are next on BPR. Hi.
Yes, hi. Good
Hi.
morning.
Hi.
I just want. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, just wanted to echo what a number of people have said about the environmental costs on this.
Please do.
I could talk my head off about the issue of kids not learning how to write, kids not reading books, not developing critical thinking with AI as their guide.
Mm-hmm.
But, really our existential issue is with the amount of energy that these are consuming. Add that to the energy that it takes to, sell and buy crypto, and we're really in trouble. I mean, we're just not even going to come close to meeting the goals that we need. So, that's a huge concern that we should be talking about more and more as this develops.
Melissa, did you hear when Andrea was reading that data from MIT?
Absolutely.
That in a couple of years it will equal the total amount of electricity used in 22% of the homes in America. Melissa, is this the Melissa I know?
Yes, it is, Jim. Yes, it is.
This is
And
Melissa
I-
Lutke. Melissa, why don't you, someone was mentioning your book the other day. Why don't you tell people what your latest is so people can go enjoy a good read? What's the latest book called?
Yeah, well, Jim and Marjorie talked to me about my book, Locker Room Talk,
Mm-hmm.
A Woman's Struggle to Get Inside, which is about my attempt in the 1970s, which was successful, to gain access for women to be able to do their jobs by interviewing baseball players in their locker room.
What court made
thanks
that
for that.
decision, Melissa? What court did that go to?
Well, it's a court that we hear about a lot these days, and that's the Southern District Court of Manhattan.
Yeah.
With a very famous judge, Constance Baker Motley,
Yeah.
based on the 14th Amendment. So thank you.
Melissa,
Yeah.
the book is great. People should read it. It's great. It's a great story, and you tell it
Well,
beautifully.
thank you. And thank you for continuing to talk about climate change. And I just felt with Marjorie not here today, we just need to double down on that conversation about the environmental payoff that these are causing. So,
Melissa,
thank you.
Marjorie will be thrilled you called. She is obsessed, and we all should be obsessed. Thanks, everybody.
And to Melissa's point, it'll go until we're all enslaved by the data needs and the energy needs, and then we won't be able to do anything about it. We are out of time. Thank you for all your calls and your texts. Coming up after this quick break, CNN John King is zooming in to us from, we're at the library. He's zooming in. I'm Andrea Cabral in for Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com /GBH News.
An Indian film that premiered in 2013 has just been re-released with an AI-generated alternate ending. That decision is proving to be controversial for some viewers.
It is an aberration which an attention-seeking company has put out in the public domain to garner outrage.
That story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Boston Children's Museum, featuring 100 Acre Wood, a Winnie the Pooh experience. Visitors can sort honey and acorns with Pooh Bear and Piglet, bounce with Roo and Tigger, or read one of Owl's favorite books. Tickets at bostonchildrensmuseum.org. And the Boston Symphony Orchestra, presenting the 2025 season of Tanglewood, showcasing the beauty of incredible surroundings and world-class music. Tanglewood, where music goes for the summer. Tanglewood.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. I'm Jim Browdy. Marjorie has a day off. She has a couple days off. Sitting in is former Secretary of Public Safety from Massachusetts, Andrea Cabral. Hello again, Andrea.
Hello again, Jim.
Live from the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're back here tomorrow. Presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin will be here physically in the library. I know people love talking to her after and before. And State Auditor Diana DeZoglio will join us to give us an update on what is not happening on the ballot question. She sponsored question 1, which was embraced by 70% of the voters. That's the one that says that the auditor, that's who she is, should be able to audit the legislature, which she has not been able to do. Now joined on Zoom by CNN's chief national correspondent, John King, the man behind the great reporting project all over the map. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning. I promise you I am not AI generated. I'm Zoom, but it's actually me. If I was going to AI generate, I would do a little better than this.
You're looking pretty good to me, John King.
We're really grateful that it's just you. It's good to see you, John. So tell us, give us your take anyway, on the Texas legislature attempting to, or at least authorizing, the issuance of what they're calling arrest warrants for the Democrats who left and denied them a quorum. I mean, for people who don't know, when default warrants are issued in criminal cases, that's one thing. In a civil case, it's called a capias. You can still arrest someone on it, but it's not the same as a default warrant. But also, you have to have a basis for issuing a warrant. What was the basis that the legislature cited for issuing warrants for their own makers? Because as far as I know, it's not a crime to simply absent yourself from the state legislature.
I think your skepticism is coming through, Andrea, and I think it is.
It has a tendency to do that.
In the sense that, look, this is raw politics, right? You either agree or disagree. The Republicans are worried. They have a very narrow House majority. The midterm elections are next year. History tells you that Donald Trump is likely to lose that House majority next year. So you're trying to do everything you can to make the battlefield more to your advantage. And they say in Texas, maybe we can create 5 more Republican seats by redrawing the lines in the middle of the decade. We usually do it right after the census. There's no law that says you have to only do it once after the census, but that has been the norm for quite some time. So Texas Rangers have no authority to arrest a Texas House member who may be in Boston or Illinois or California or somewhere else because they don't want to be present in Texas, so they don't have a quorum, so they can't pass this plan. They have no legal authority. This is all about politics. The governor's rationale has been he wants to see whether they're being bribed. Was their travel paid for? Are national Democrats bribing them to not do their job so that they can have it? So I'm going to stop there in the sense that, look, there's politics on the Democratic side, too. Don't get me wrong. Now California says it might try to do this. And Illinois says it might try to do this. New York's governor says this is war. Let's join the fight. She, by state law, can't do anything until after 28. But you see what's happening here. Trump asked Texas to do this. The Republican governor said yes. They're trying to do it, and now it's turned into a big national mess.
John, I'm going to butcher this quote. What's the line? Democrats bring, sticks to a gunfight or something. They play by the old rules, which were, I guess, ended
Democratic.
Democratic, yeah. Small d democratic rules, right? And you remember the infamous, it may be infamous now, when they go low, we go high, the great Michelle Obama speech, I think it was at a convention. I think there are a growing number of Democrats that would like Democratic leaders to go as low as the Republicans are going. And if there's potential to lose 5 seats to the Republicans in Texas, try to make it up in New York, California, wherever the hell. You used the word might before, which I think was significant. They might do this. Will they do this in your estimation, or is this just the usual all smoke and no whatever?
You raise, I think, a fascinating point. Number one, this redistricting thing is real. It does affect the map for next year's midterm elections, which are enormously consequential. Remember what happened to Trump in the first term? The Democrats won the midterms in 2018. Nancy Pelosi became speaker, and everything changed. The brakes on the Trump agenda. Trump remembers that. That's why he wants Texas to do this. He wants the most advantageous battlefield he can have next year. Still might not be enough, but that's what he's trying to do. So politically, it makes sense, even if you think as a citizen or following our norms or our traditions, it's way outside the norms and outside the lines. Will the Democrats do it? Look, you're right. This has been an issue. Republicans have not been afraid, even before Trump, to use their power when they have it, even if the majority is tiny. Ask Merrick Garland, who could be on the Supreme Court if Mitch McConnell did not stand up and stop Barack Obama from putting him on the Supreme Court. We might live in a somewhat different America had that happened. Republicans are not afraid to use their power. Even before Trump and with Trump, it's like, I want this, go do it. And in most cases, Republicans say yes. Watch the Democrats now, because their base is saying, fight. Stop letting him roll you over. Stop letting him run you over. Will they do it? Governor Newsom was very clear yesterday in California that he is prepared to do this. Governor Newsom is obviously a potential candidate in 2028. So we have 2026 politics at play here, Jim. We also have the future of the Democratic Party in 2028 politics at play here. It looks to me, by every indication, that Newsom will at least try. He will bring it to the floor as opposed to just talking about it. I mentioned Governor Hochul in New York. There are a lot of legal restrictions there that say she cannot do it. Does she somehow try to reverse those? We'll watch what's happening. But I think that's a constitutional question. I'm not an expert, but everything I've read says she can't do it right now. She can start the process, but it won't affect 2026. And look around the country now to see if any other blue state governors come forward and say, I'm going to try this here. And then watch. Trump wants Missouri to do it. Ohio is looking at redrawing its lines as well. So this could become a red state versus blue state messy game of very important political chess.
We're talking to CNN's John King.
John, what I worry about here, though, I want to stay on this for just a second. What I worry about here is that redistricting is the reason it's only done every 10 years is because it's based on the census. The census measures who is living where, so that people living in a particular area have adequate representation for their number in that population, right? No taxation without representation. That's why it's done every 10 years. Why isn't it a bigger story that the President of the United States, for what is nakedly a political advantage, is calling for redistricting in an off year that will not be based on the democratic principles of measuring it by the census? If nothing is being done here for the people, redistricting isn't being done so that they're better represented. It's being done to further consolidate his power. How come that isn't sort of the lead story versus less of the state versus state back and forth?
It's a great question. I think part of it is that so many norms are being stretched, trampled, or broken that it just seems to fit in with a pattern of, Donald Trump does things differently. Donald Trump doesn't care that for 249 years it's been done this way, or for 100 years it's been done this way, or that for, in the modern age it's been done this way. Pick your issue and put it into its time context. Trump is differently. You raise a critical point. I would also say, for those who say maybe we should do this, not just wait every 10 years, we do have more data now. There's more data available. So you could make a case that we could do this every 5 years instead of every 10 years, and we might be more accurate. That's not the case they're making. I'm open to discussion on anything. I think we need to rethink everything, because you were just having this fascinating conversation about artificial intelligence. It's incredibly scary in some ways. It's incredibly helpful, enormously helpful in others. We need to be willing to talk about these things. But Texas is not saying, hey, we have better data, right, so we want to redraw these lines now. The way it was normally done is you look at the census, and then you also use common sense, right? To the victor go the spoils. This goes back a very long time. Democrats have done it, just like Republicans are doing it now. We have power. We're going to use it. We're going to draw lines that give us an advantage. In the past, though, it has been an advantage, but don't trample people. In the past, you've had to look at voting rights and civil rights and our minority populations properly represented. And usually, in many states, there have been huge exceptions to this, common sense kicks in and you want to draw, relatively, you want to draw rectangles or squares or, something that makes sense when you draw the map. Now, they use data to draw these ridiculous looking districts, and that's what they're going to do now in Texas, is take some Republicans out of Republican seats and move them into what are now Democratic seats to help make those seats more competitive and likely more Republican. So I'm a broken record on this subject. These things should be done with respect and common sense. It's being done here, and with just raw politics.
John, you said a minute ago, now that more data is available, and Jamie, our colleague, just sent me a note, more data available until Trump fires everyone collecting the data, which is a very fine segue.
Yeah. There is that, yeah.
I ask you this question, it's almost like a broken record, almost every week in a different context. Are there any Republicans other than the usual suspects, 2 or 3, who are worried about making policy if it's premised on fact that is not fact. I mean, for those, let me just say, everybody knows he fired the woman who was head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because he didn't like the job numbers. And it seems to me that he said he's going to announce the next pick today, tomorrow, whatever. And it's pretty obvious that in the future, whoever gets that job, if he doesn't like whatever they say, meaning they've got to butcher the facts. If the facts aren't what Trump likes, they're going to get fired. Are Republicans worried about policy based on fantasy?
The answer is no. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't. You mentioned the usual suspects. They will stand up and say, we have these agencies for a reason. They have independence for a reason. Data is data, whether the president's a Democrat or Republican, whether the economy is humming along or whether the economy is struggling. Facts are facts. Data is data. The earth is round. The climate is in crisis. Joe Biden won the 2020 election. There are certain truths that we do hold to be self-evident, most of us. But you raise an interesting pattern about Donald Trump. I would note this. Did he complain about the Bureau of Labor Statistics back pre-COVID when the Trump economy was actually in high gear and the American economy was creating jobs? Did he complain then about the numbers?
I believe the answer is no. Is that the correct answer? Thank you.
Did he complain when he won the 2016 or the 2024 presidential election? Did he say all the Secretary of States were crooked and they were cooking the books and they were cheating?
Let me guess. I think the answer is no to that one, too.
So he complains when he doesn't like things. He complains about judges. He complains about Republicans. He complains about anybody who does something that he doesn't like. My first job in Washington, I worked for the Associated Press, covered the Dukakis campaign, moved to Washington. My great bosses at the AP decided one way to learn politics was to cover the labor beat. So you covered labor unions in the Democratic Party, but you also got locked up in a room at the Labor Department on the first Friday of every month, in the room downstairs, so you could read the report for 30 minutes before you wrote the story about the unemployment report, the Bureau of Labor Statistics report, because that report can move financial markets around the world and here in the United States. That report and the reporting on it can impact people's 401ks, can impact things in the moment in the economy. It is done by public servants. Are they always right? No. Do they have to revise it a lot? Yes. But is it their best ballpark window estimate at the time? Yes. And they're good. We've talked about this before with the people who count votes in precincts around the country, with secretaries of state around the country, with statisticians at the Labor Department. They're good career public servants who are doing the best they can possibly do. But if Donald Trump doesn't like what you say, he tries to run you out of town. And back to your main question, not enough Republicans stand up and say, sir, there have to be some limits to the use of your power.
John, I didn't know that was one of your first assignments, which allows me to ask something else.
Learned a ton.
By the way, what's that?
I learned a ton in that job.
Well, you did. And by the way, I say this about once a year. Little John King, his first assignment covering the Dukakis campaign. It's a question for you, Andrea, since he's asked questions. Who was the reporter who was the first to break the story that Lloyd Bentsen was the vice presidential running mate of Michael Dukakis?
I would have to guess John King.
Little John King, that is exactly right, in 1988. So, John, since you're in that room, even if this woman who he fired was as corrupt and manipulative as he says he is, this is not a process that's one person looking at their computer and deciding what the job numbers are. There's scads of people working on this thing, and even if she or another person wanted to manipulate the numbers, they have very limited ability to do it. Am I not right about that?
Here's the potential problem. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics works under the Labor Department. The Labor Secretary and the Undersecretary, political appointees, do have access to that report the night before. Right. They don't finish it at 7:59 a.m. on Friday morning and then bring it to the reporters in the room. Right. And so even the White House can get briefed on that report because responsible policymakers might have to make decisions the next day based on what's going to happen, right? You have to watch financial markets. They have jobs that they might need that data. We think of it as like, can I find a job? How's my 401k doing? The economy up or down? Should I hire new people? So whatever your job out there in the marketplace as a normal citizen, that data may affect you in one way or another. If you're a policymaker, a president, the labor secretary, there might occasionally be something big in that report that requires you to get to work the next morning. And so you get a heads up. There are people who get a heads up. That's the problem. So if the draft report is made the night before and the numbers say the economy lost jobs last month, and Donald Trump's going to be red hot at you if you publish that report, does the labor secretary try to cook the books? Does the labor secretary try to change the numbers? Does the new BLS administrator who got the job from Donald Trump think, I need to do something here? So do you, it's revised every month. It's a very complicated process. It's not a perfect process. That process too could be modernized, by the way, with technology and other forms of data. However, that's not, just like Texas, that's not what this conversation is about. This conversation is about, can Donald Trump put people in every agency in the United States government that try to make him look better and that bury stuff that, the month-to-month that he thinks month-to-month variations in the economy hurt him is a little nuts, in the sense that welcome to life, right? Welcome to the American economy. When I started doing it, George H.W. Bush was president. We were in a modest recession. And yeah, sometimes those monthly reports were horrible. Did George H.W. Bush ever try to kill them or change the numbers or challenge the people, even though it was hurting him politically? No.
Dr. John King.
Here's what's worrying about that, because at one point, maybe not as much as it has happened in our democracy, but you have to believe that at one point, even in a country like Russia, things were fairer, or data or truth was taken as a given. And where they are now, where nothing is ever released that is unfavorable to Vladimir Putin and his infrastructure. So there's a way to get there. And there's also no doubt that Donald Trump and people that he's hiring intend to get him there. So I would say maybe we shouldn't be thinking that it could never happen in a democracy, that we get to the point where no matter who depends on those numbers, no matter how much the economy is propped up by people's reliance on actual data, that we can't get to that place in the United States of America.
I think, Andrea, you raise here the bigger point, the more important point. I'm not saying that the data from in the jobs report every month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the work it does, that has a huge impact. These agencies, Social Security Administration, Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Census Bureau, the Commerce Department, the reports they publish impact your Social Security cost of living increase. They impact Medicaid disbursements to the states. They impact just about every federal dollar that leaves Washington in one way or another, and who it reaches. Which state does it reach? Which person does it reach? So it is absolutely essential to the day-to-day lives of millions and millions of Americans. I would argue almost every American in some way. But the bigger challenge than even that is that Donald Trump is trying to convince his people that only he can be trusted. You can't trust the courts. That judge is bonkers. That judge, isn't he the Mexican? Isn't he this? It's illegitimate. You can't trust the Democrats. You can't trust what he calls the rhino Republicans. You can't trust the vote counters. You can only trust him. That's the message he is trying to send to his people is, it's all out to get you. They're all out to get me because they don't like you. And so that's the dangerous part, the parallel you make with a Putin, an authoritarian society where one person is the arbiter of truth. Democracy cannot survive that, just plain and simple.
We're talking to John King. We only have a couple of minutes left. You were filling in for Anderson Cooper last night, and you did a terrific job, particularly in the discussion you had with the guy whose name, of course, I forget, former Deputy Attorney General, and the woman, I think Fitzgerald from the Atlantic, who covers the Epstein thing. And the two of the major topics were the transfer of Maxwell after she met with Todd Blanche, Trump's former lawyer, number two, in the Justice Department, from a real prison to essentially a camp. And secondly, the possibility that Trump could pardon Maxwell, which is unimaginable to me, but everything is unimaginable. The most significant part of that discussion was not your good guess, but your comment at the end of the discussion. Do you remember what you said last night, John, on CNN?
Yeah, I said that we should remember the victims here. That you have politicians, Donald Trump promised to release everything, and he won't release everything, right? We can have a conversation about why. Donald Trump decided to create a distraction that his handpicked attorney at the Justice Department, the number two there, would go, interview Miss Maxwell, and then somehow she got upgraded to a cushier prison. That's important. We need to talk about those things. But there were a whole lot of young women who were victims here, who were exploited, who were abused, who were disrespected, and they have daily trauma in their lives. And so a couple of them filed things with the court to the judge saying, if you have to release things, please remember us. And so my point was, there's a lot of politics here. Right? And Trump's base is mad at him. This is a very rare thing. Trump's base is furious at him because they think, what, sir, you promised to give us all of this. Why aren't you giving us all this? Those are very important discussions. Why is Donald Trump not willing to keep this promise? Why is Donald Trump? But my point was, as we have these conversations, we need to take a breath and step back every second, because somebody out there on the receiving end listening to this conversation or watching on television or picking up a newspaper or going online They are either personally a victim or a member of that person's family, and they are going through daily trauma. And if we forget that, we are forgetting, why we wake up in the morning and why we do what we do. We have to be sensitive that everything is not about politics. Some of it's about people who have been abused and hurt, and we need to remember that.
And one last thing before you go, that Fitzgerald was her name, right? The Atlantic woman who, the thing that she said, she had talked to several victims either yesterday or the day before, and unlike the obvious emotions they're having, which you described, the trauma, they're talking about physical fear. Because, look what happens when you stand up, you complain about what Donald Trump has to say about anything, whether you're an elected official or a survivor of grotesque sexual abuse from the people like Epstein and Maxwell. In any case, you did a brilliant job handling it last night. It was a really
Sarah's done some breathtaking reporting on this, but she does it all through the lens of humanity.
She does.
It's proof it can be done.
You're pretty good at that too, John Kane. Good to see you, John. Be well.
Very good to see you, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with CNN Chief National Correspondent John King. He's the man behind the reporting project All Over the Map. We say goodbye to you listening to NEPM, but please tune in to the fabulous 413, which starts at 3 o'clock this afternoon. The show continues here in Boston, coming up after the noon news on 89.7. GBH Carol Rose, Executive Director for the Massachusetts ACLU. I'm Andrea Cabral, in for Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy, in for himself. And you're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming on youtube.com/GBH News.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues up ahead with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio, right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And M&M Skylights, located in Stoneham, installing and servicing the full range of Velux skylights that can help bring air and more natural light into your home. Skylight consultations can be scheduled at mmskylights.com. Hear the untold stories of the last months of World War II and find out how close we came to an even more catastrophic conclusion. Watch American Experience, Victory in the Pacific, tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News, what matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 2 of BPR Live from the Boston Public Library. A federal district court blocked Donald Trump's executive order restricting birthright citizenship. We'll talk to Carol Rose from the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts on what this means for other cases and how lower courts are standing up to Trump or not.
I'm Andrea Cabral, in for Marjorie Egan. Then, a local group of women plans to open the Sports Bra, a bar dedicated to showing women's sports only. We'll talk to two of the owners about the planned opening and upcoming watch events. All that, plus our much-beloved Two More Things segment, is next on BPR on 89.7 GBH, live from the BPL.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Democratic Party leaders say they're ready for a showdown with the GOP over a Republican drive in Texas to redraw congressional maps in the state. Democratic state lawmakers left Texas Sunday to block passage of a redistricting measure. Today, they appeared in Illinois, backed by Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Donald Trump, Governor Abbott, Texas Republicans, well, they know that they're headed toward a loss of the Congress in 2026. They're afraid, and they should be.
President Trump, meanwhile, says Republicans are entitled to 5 more seats in Texas.
We have a really good governor, and we have good people in Texas. And I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
President Trump in an interview with CNBC. He was also asked about a third term. Trump said he probably won't run again. And the president addressed tariffs on pharmaceuticals. He said a small tariff now, then a surge later to encourage more domestic production. There have been a few Republican town halls held since Congress passed President Trump's tax cut and spending plan. Nebraska Congressman Mike Flood held his town hall last night. Nick Loomis of Nebraska Public Media reports a Republican attempted to discuss the legislation.
Even through the speaker system at the 850-seat auditorium in Lincoln, Flood's opening remarks could hardly be heard at times over jeers from a capacity crowd.
There's been a lot of misinformation out there about the bill.
The leader of the House Main Street Caucus repeatedly said that he would protect Medicaid. In turn, attendees called Flood a liar and yelled that cuts to the program would shut down rural Nebraska hospitals. When Flood said the U.S. can't afford certain programs, the audience responded with repeated choruses of "tax the rich." Flood was accused of hiding the Jeffrey Epstein files during the Q&A segment. He said he supported the release of the documents to a rare moment of applause. For NPR News, I'm Nick Loomis.
In a rare joint appeal, former Israeli army leaders and intelligence officials are calling for an immediate end to the Gaza war. Here's NPR's Eleanor Beardsley.
In a 3-minute video released Sunday, a who's who of Israel's defense establishment issued an extraordinarily blunt appeal to end the war in Gaza immediately, warning its grinding continuation is steering the country toward the loss of its security and freedom. A lie is being told to the Israeli public, said former Mossad chief Tamir Pardo. Fierce backlash came swiftly from pro-government supporters, including some TV hosts calling the video propaganda that undermines the war. One right-wing channel dismissed the group as failed leadership and urged them to, quote, sit home and quietly enjoy your pensions.
It's NPR.
Good afternoon from the GBH studios in Boston. I'm Soraya Wintersmith. That is the sound of a fife and drum band on the floor of the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center today. They're adding a little local flavor to the National Conference of State Legislatures Legislative Summit here this week. Lawmakers from across the nation are gathered to talk policy, and GBH's Katie Lannon is on the ground bringing you news from that event. Of course, it's not all fun and games. As you've been hearing, Democratic state representatives from Texas have decamped to other states, and some are now in Boston for the event. Texas State Senator Sarah Eckard is not part of the House, but she is here in town, and she says she is concerned about her colleagues facing consequences for their redistricting protest.
Did anyone ever imagine that in a democracy, when you challenge leadership, the leadership would fine you, penalize you, and threaten to take your elected office away and replace you with somebody of the opposing party? I mean, that is just mind-boggling.
Eckard's colleagues now face a slew of potential penalties, including arrest. In sports, the Red Sox are hosting the Kansas City Royals again tonight. First pitch is at 7:10. Also tonight, NESN will make history by featuring the Red Sox first ever all-female broadcast team and all-female broadcast booth for a complete game. And we're still looking at cool and cloudy weather today with temps staying around the 70s. Right now, it's hazy and breezy and 75 in Boston.
Support for NPR comes from Made In, makers of cookware found in restaurants around the world, offering a carbon steel griddle for home use. Designed for cooking a range of foods, from eggs and bacon to burgers and fish. More at madeincookware.com. This is NPR.
Welcome to hour number 2 of BPR. Jim Braude, former Secretary of Massachusetts Public Safety. Andrea Cabral sitting in for Marjorie Egan. Hello, Andrea.
Hello, Jim.
Nice to see you.
Nice
We're
to see you,
live
too.
from the Boston Public Library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We're back at the library tomorrow. Doris Kearns Goodwin, you know who she is. I was going to say presidential historian. Unnecessary. She will be here in person, as will State Auditor Diana DiZoglio, talking about the frustrating effort to honor the will of the people. 70+% of whom voted for question 1, which is her ballot question to allow her to audit the legislature. Nothing's happening. I think. We'll find out from her. We're joined at the library now by Carol Rose. Carol's the Executive Director of the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. She joins us monthly. Hello there, Carol. How are you?
Hello there. It's great to be here.
Nice to see you.
So, Carol, a federal appeals court on Friday, and it happened to be the federal...
Our federal appeals court.
Right, Massachusetts is in the First Circuit Court of Appeals. A three-judge panel became the second court to issue a decision saying that Trump's executive order, and his executive orders don't really have the force and effect of law, despite what people do in furtherance of them, his seeking to end birthright citizenship is unlawful. I want you to explain for our listeners and our viewers what the significance of that decision, but please explain it in the context of Trump v. Casa, which was a SCOTUS decision that preceded these decisions.
Right. So, first of all, what is birthright citizenship? Birthright citizenship is the part of the 14th Amendment that came after the Civil War and in response to the terrible Dred Scott decision that said anyone born in this country becomes a U.S. citizen automatically. And it's so important that we have that. I mean, there were some exceptions for people who were born to diplomats who are here sort of as a visitor, or if we were occupied by a foreign state, by a foreign country, or for Native American people because they have other allegiances, and that's been changed. And that case has been really, that constitutional amendment has been really clearly interpreted now for, over 100 years. And including in 1940, there was a big Supreme Court case that upheld that's the reading of the law. And it's pretty straightforward. And every single court that has ruled on the merits of whether or not birthright citizenship is protected in the Constitution has ruled that absolutely, yes, it is. Okay, and there are a whole lot of suits. There are suits on behalf of states, including our state. Andrea Joy Campbell, our state attorney general, joined with other states. There are West Coast states, and then there are a lot of individual plaintiff cases in Maryland and in Massachusetts and in New Hampshire. So just to give there's a lot of moving parts to all of these challenges. So far, as I said, all of the courts have ruled that, of course, birthright citizenship is protected under the U.S. Constitution. What the Trump DOJ did is they went up and they said, hey, we know we're losing, but could you say that you can't have a nationwide injunction? So that when a lower court rules and says you can't have a different law in Massachusetts on birthright citizenship than you do in California, let's just say, or in Texas. And what the Trump administration did was to say, hey, we want you to get rid of nationwide injunctions. And so in the Casa case, what the U.S. Supreme Court ruled is, we don't like nationwide injunctions. So they didn't rule on whether or not it's constitutional. They just said we don't like nationwide injunctions. What we did here at the ACLU of Massachusetts, in conjunction with our partners at the National ACLU, is went in 2 hours later and filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of all the people yet to be born who won't get citizenship when they should. And our reasoning on that, first of all, it's a procedural tool, and we've got the class, and we got the ruling, so right now people are protected. But now the cases are going up on the merits. And so there's all these different cases that are going up on the merits. And the Ninth Circuit out in California ruled on behalf of the states and said, it's still protected by the Constitution. And we had this hearing on Friday on behalf of both the states and the individual plaintiffs. And we don't yet have a ruling, but the judges, led by Chief Justice David Barron of the First Circuit Court of Appeals.
We should say, in the spirit of full disclosure, since she always does disclosure, Chief Judge David Barron is Juliette Kayyem's husband, for whatever it's worth.
And what I want to say is that these judges were so prepared. It was a fascinating oral. It was just this Friday started at 3 p.m. in the afternoon and went until almost 6 o'clock. They were so prepared and they were so skeptical. And they kept saying, to the Department of Justice lawyer, on what possible grounds do you think that we can rule otherwise? It's just so clear and so straightforward. So we're anticipating a ruling any day. At that point, we think it'll probably go back up to the U.S. Supreme Court to rule on the merits, but it may not, given that the Department of Justice keeps trying just to use delay and saying, let's have a stay, don't implement it, as a way to keep the ball moving forward. But right now, I'm pretty confident that we're going to get a very good ruling out of the First Circuit Court of Appeals.
But what is the folly of the SCOTUS undermining their own federal district court judges and, in some cases, appellate court judges?
Right.
And forcing plaintiffs, either through class action or as individuals, to bring case after case after case. That's the whole point of having a federal district court ruling apply all across the board. That is federalism.
Right.
A type of federalism.
And you're exactly right. And what's going on here, which is so disturbing, and it's the thing that gives me so much anxiety, because anybody paying attention is anxious, which is the Supreme Court seems to be siding with executive power against its own judiciary.
Right, ceding its authority to the executive.
Right. And so I'll just say, and I've said before that, the courts alone won't save it, but save us. But litigation in the courts is a really important thing to slow things down while we move our way to the political process. And what we're seeing now is, I just read a statistic, I'm going to guesstimate here, but it was like 94% of the judges in the trial court level are ruling against the Trump administration. All the hundreds of cases, those are being upheld in something like 70% of the appellate courts, right? But the U.S. Supreme Court is using its shadow docket, which means they issue an opinion without any explanation, without any briefs, without any arguments or anything like that. And they're ruling with the Trump administration. So they're both turning against their own judges and ruling with the Trump administration. It's wild, and it's incredibly, incredibly disturbing for all of us who care about
democracy. And sets the stage for mutiny.
Can I say two things about this? You mentioned the percentage of courts that are ruling. There was a wonderful piece, Jamie, hopefully you can find the headline, in the New York Times maybe 2 weeks ago that just had damning quotes from judges, Republican nominees, Democratic nominees, just a line or two. They cited the case and what the issue was. It was fabulous. Some Trump appointees, some others trashing Trump's Department of Justice.
And let me just say that we're seeing this in the courts ourselves. I mean, it's really interesting. At the beginning of the Trump administration, we'd go in, and there was this assumption, as there had been for 250 years, that when the government lawyers spoke, they were telling the truth, that there was veracity to what they were saying. Now we're seeing the judges who say, you bring me that proof. You prove that that's true. You cannot just, I don't believe you anymore. I've learned. And the judges are getting radicalized. It's very, very important to know that that's happening.
Let's segue to that in about 30 seconds. I just want to emphasize one thing that Andrea talked about, and I'm sure you agree, in terms of nationwide injunctions and the Supreme Court's decision. If there was ever a case that was created for nationwide injunctions, it's birthright citizenship, because there's a million people like you have said so well. If Massachusetts District Court says the 14th Amendment guarantees birthright citizenship, but the Oklahoma court says it doesn't, you're not a citizen in Oklahoma, and you are a citizen. It's so absurd. It's insane.
Right. It's just insane. And so there's something else going on. And I think what we're really seeing is the Roberts Court. I mean, you saw that, Chief Justice Roberts, the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, authored the decision last year that basically gave the executive immunity from committing crimes, right? And he's the same person who authored, everything against the Voting Rights Act. And we can talk about gerrymander, who's ruled against those. Those are all coming from Chief Justice Roberts' opinions.
This is his legacy.
This is his legacy, and it seems to be one that's incredibly anti-constitutional.
Here's the title of the piece. You should really look this up. It was in the July 12th New York Times. Egregious, brazen, lawless, how 48 judges describe Trump's actions in their own words. We're talking to Carol Rose. We were going to bring this up later, but since you were praising how the courts below the Supreme Court have done such a lawful, constitutional tending kind of job, there's a frightening piece, was it in the Washington Post, that talked about how they did an analysis of the rulings against Trump, and then in roughly a third of the cases, the Department of Justice, the administration, outright defied the order of the court. The most dramatic example is the man who was deported. The Justice Department admitted by mistake. The guy who admitted the mistake was fired immediately to Venezuela, ultimately brought back, and the Supreme Court said that they should facilitate his return, and they didn't for weeks. Either outright dishonoring a court's ruling, lying in terms of the court, the infamous Todd Blanche, FU, not Todd Blanche, Emil Bove, who's now a judge. Who's now a federal appellate court judge. Could you explain, I'm channeling Marjorie for this, because she says it all the time, and I'm totally with her. Why are these courts so reluctant to hold the administration in contempt when they're in clear violation of court orders? And it seems to me that the more they don't hold them in contempt, the more they encourage lawlessness on the part of the Justice Department.
I think you're absolutely right. And I do not know why they're not doing that. I mean, part of it is, you have to wait till the case gets to a certain procedural point, and then we can file a motion for contempt. But it's also, they could do it sua sponte on their own, from the bench, and they don't. But I will tell you, let me just tell you an amazing case that we had last week, an immigration case. So this young person, a 21-year-old, gets picked up. He came here as a minor, unaccompanied, on a special juvenile visa. Right, and he's being held for...
What is a juvenile? I don't even know what a juvenile
visa is. It's like a special
is.
visa for kids who are either victims of abuse or who are unaccompanied. So they're in the ward of the state.
Mm-hmm.
So they come in here. So he's called into ICE and they say, hey, and he's like working legally here. His documents are in order. He's played by the rules. He's working, building schools. I mean, he's doing good stuff. No crime ever alleged, nothing like that. They call him in to say, we want to look at your paperwork. And then when he gets there, they arrest him and they put him in detention.
Of course.
For a month. And so they bring him back to court. We insist that he comes back to court. We say you can't hold him. They're trying to do what's called expedited removal. He doesn't fall into the category for expedited removal. So they bring him in after a month, and we walk into court, and we get ready to argue, and the government lawyer walks in and says, oh, we're removing the order. We're canceling it. And the judge says, well, by what? Show us the evidence of that. And he takes a magic marker, and X's out a piece of paper and says, here you go. But we want to hold him under a different regulation that would enable him to never have bond, indefinite detention with no possibility of bond. And, our ACLU lawyers, stood up and said, absolutely not. We challenged that. The government was saying, well, we want to keep him no matter what. And the judge, Judge Brian Murphy, he just said, no. I've seen this play out before. I've learned how you do this. We're not going to take away this man's liberty for one more night without due process and set him free to go home to his family that day. And I mean, it was so moving to see that happen. So the judges are getting angry. They are learning, but whether they're doing contempt orders, they're saying things like, we're going to set people free. We're not going to trust that the government is going to be a trustworthy partner anymore. And that's a big change in how it used to be.
But Carol, I'm by the bar over 40 years now. Yeah. I sort of hate to admit that's how old I am. I have never known DOJ lawyers to even be able to bring themselves to walk into a court of law and nakedly lie to a judge, to obfuscate, to say we're canceling a memo and then take out a Sharpie and exit out in front of that judge, which is as a contemptuous gesture as I can think of. I don't understand how people are continuing to stay there and be the people walking into court saying and doing these things when the oath they swear is to uphold the Constitution, not the whims of one person or their immediate supervisor.
And I wish more people thought like you, because I think all of us have.
It's the fact. You raise your hand and you swear the oath. So the fact that you're not doing that has to have consequences. It should have consequences within the DOJ, by outside forces, and we're on the bench for not upholding it.
Yes. So, I mean, I agree with you, but I do think that what we have to do now is to have these conversations, and all of us to have these conversations in all of our communities, with our family members, with our colleagues, with our friends, and to talk about how outrageous this is. Because if you're not, it's so easy to just say, I'm just too overwhelmed. If you are bothered, if you are agitated, if you are anxious, that means they haven't dulled your senses yet. So that means you're winning and they're losing. So part of it is, yes, engage in self-care. Hope is a political act, but also understand that if you're outraged, that's a good sign. That means you're still willing to fight for democracy. And, people fought for this for 250 years, and now it's our turn. And we have to fight in the courts, on the streets, online, in the papers, on the radio, everywhere we go, and frankly, in the state legislature and with the governor. We need to, the action has to move to the states. And we need to build a firewall for freedom here in the States. And I do want to say there's one, because you know me, I always bring the good news. Not always, but mostly. One of the things I do want to say is the Massachusetts legislature, before they took off for the holidays, they updated our abortion and gender-affirming shield law here in Massachusetts. And it's pending a signature by Governor Healy. We hope she'll do it. But it's going to be incredibly important because it's going to codify some of the state-level protections for providers of abortion care. It's going to make sure that they aren't going to be able to be doxxed and targeted, and we're not going to participate in other states that are trying to bring their anti-choice laws into our free Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So there's that, and on so many other levels, there are a lot of tools left in the toolkit. So I don't want people to think that the courts are the only place, because right now the Supreme Court is really disappointing.
Speaking of the Supreme Court, let me just do one last thing on that before we get to Trump's law firm, otherwise known as the Justice Department. This is sort of a variation on the question about why are the district courts not holding, or the appellate courts not holding, DOJ people in contempt when they lie or obfuscate or whatever the verbs were a minute ago. There's a thesis that I don't know if we've run by you, by a lot of smart people who follow the Supreme Court, that one of the reasons they have been so compliant with Trump is, and this doesn't let them off the hook at all, even though it's going to sound like it does, is because they're so afraid that they're going to issue an order that actually is in compliance with the Constitution that's bad for Trump, and Trump's going to say, F you, I'm not going to honor it, and thus a constitutional crisis is created. In normal times, I would say that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. In these times, it makes a lot of sense to me that the Robertses, and I don't just mean him, but the other people who are not Alito and Thomas may have that point of view.
That they're trying to duck a constitutional crisis.
Exactly, that's what I was trying to say.
I will just say, I think that's why this birthright citizenship case is so important, because it's actually not a very hard case from a constitutional perspective.
Because the language is so clear.
Unconstitutional. And all you do is to say, if you're born here, you are a citizen. Continue the status quo. So for Trump to sort of disregard that, it's kind of harder, as opposed to something that says you have to reinstate some kind of grant, or you have to reinstate somebody into their job. That becomes easier for Trump to defy. So if the court folds on birthright citizenship, then we truly know that we're in a very different ballgame. But I will just say this for the record. When people say, do you think we're at a constitutional crisis? We already are.
Of course.
We already are. So we don't have to wait for that one moment. I think I'm not saying that we're at that kind of a constitutional crisis where he says to the Supreme Court, F you, but I think in general, we're in a constitutional crisis, and it's time for us to tell our elected officials, we want them to step up, to pass laws that would make a firewall for freedom. And there are so many things we can do. We may not be able to stop ICE from coming in, but we don't have to cooperate or collaborate with them.
Can I say one last thing about this? I'm not going to read this text. It's Al watching on YouTube who sends in, with all due respect, Al, a totally racist comment. The issue, and he says he doesn't like the concept of birthright citizenship. You said at the beginning, it's a good idea. It doesn't matter if it's a good idea. The issue is not, is it a good idea or not? The issue is, does the Constitution say that birthright citizenship exists? It says it explicitly. So, Al, you should feel free to say it's a bad idea. A lot of things are bad ideas, but it's in the Constitution. End of discussion.
That's it.
We're talking to Carol Rose.
Elie Mystal has what I think is an absolutely brilliant piece. Elie Mystal writes for The Nation, and you can see him on various news programs. But he's a brilliant lawyer and has a way of expressing himself that is unique. He has a piece in The Nation where he says he says it out loud, which, to your point, needs to be said often. The rule of law is dead in the U.S. And the point that he makes is that he starts out by saying that he usually does an end of the term Supreme Court review, but he's not going to do one this year because really, what's the point? Usually what you're trying to do is parse the Supreme Court's decisions about what this might mean or what that might mean with a Republican majority or a Democratic majority, and what that might bode for the future. And he says he's not even bothering, one, because of what you mentioned, which is the shadow docket. So now we've gotten, the shadow docket has become the main docket. We get a slew of decisions that nobody takes credit for, but yet they are then enshrined in American law. But to your point about the Supreme Court trying to avoid a constitutional crisis, and I'm going to bang on about this again, democracy can't function without three separate and co-equal branches of government to be the check and the balance on each other. So their avoidance of calling the bully out, which is essentially what they're doing. Anybody who's ever been on a playground, any kid who's ever been knows that keeping a low profile doesn't keep the bully from walking up to you. They're going to get to you eventually. What does the population do to force a branch of government to uphold their oth? To defend, what do you do? I mean, you said, we need state legislatures to step up, but these are unelected people. The Supreme Court's not elected.
Right.
And so I don't know how else you get them to function other than a class action lawsuit with most of the nation that says you are not doing what you swore an oath to do. Right. I mean, they're not the legislature.
Well, first of all, I mean, the ACLU, we are fighting back in the courts and throughout the courts. And so, we've now filed, I don't know, almost 200 legal actions.
Just in the last 6 months?
Like
Wow.
it's wild. I think it's like 168.
That's amazing.
And so we're fighting back, and we are winning at the lower courts and at the appellate courts, right? And so the good news is, I guess, is that the Supreme Court only takes up something like 60 cases a year, right? So they don't take up all the cases. And so we're going to be able to protect individual lives, like the young man, Vitor, that we set free the other day. I mean, so there are ways that we can help. In terms of the broader, I think that we have to really think about how we're going to fight on all levels. So one is people should take to the streets.
Come on.
Yes,
I mean, you say this every
Jim,
time. Do you
I'm
even
gonna
see the
just
headlines in the Globe? I don't mean this disrespectfully to you. I've read them on the air. Dozens rally at Common. Dozens rally.
Right.
And down. Dozens.
Yes.
Dozens.
Well, and hundreds of thousands came to the Hands Off rally. So I'm just saying.
One.
Yeah.
One rally. And how many things has he done? He signed that big, beautiful bill. How many people took to the street that Friday night or Saturday in Boston?
But I actually think that there's power in people taking to the streets, because the power
I agree.
isn't necessarily to Donald Trump. The
I
power
agree.
also goes, judges do read. They are members of our society. State legislators, governors do read. They are members of our society. And I will tell you, when people weren't coming out, that's when we hear from elected officials that nobody cares. So I actually think it's really important. And whether it's going to a rally or writing letters or making email calls, joining the ACLU action team at aclum.org, there really are a lot of tools, and it does make a difference. So we passed
I'm not quarreling with difference. I'm quarreling with our people doing it.
We passed the SHIELD Act, and I don't think a rally is in and of itself the point. I think the rally is the way to make people know that they're not alone, right? To make people feel that kind of community. And if we, but Dr. Martin Luther King said we have to choose community over chaos. And a rally is one way to choose community. Taking an online action is another way. Being part of a lawsuit is another way. Writing op-eds, letters, voting.
That's what I wanted to.
There's not one pill that's going to fix everything.
So here's what I was getting at, and I just wanted to see if anybody else was sort of thinking the same way. I don't know why our elected leaders and others, whether they're nonprofits or NGOs or whatever, they're not really supposed to engage in political activity. I don't care what the group is. There are 90 million people that didn't vote in the last election. Those numbers dwarf the total number of votes Harris got, the total number of votes that Donald Trump got. Why aren't there more grassroots efforts to educate people about why democracy? If you want a democracy, you have to actually participate in it. The only thing it actually requires you to do is to vote. Mm-hmm. But educating people as to how they shouldn't be complacent about their democracy, that's how they lose it. For a lot of people, the people turning out at rallies is because people don't understand how that action translates into a stronger democracy.
Right.
Because we've stopped educating people about how our government functions. 3 separate and co-equal branches of government. They simply don't know, and therefore they don't act. So why isn't there more of an educational effort
Well,
around
except
that?
can I just answer that in part? Margie and I had the exact same conversations, and she said much of what you said. The big, beautiful bill, which is one of the greatest assaults on democracy and basic human rights that this country has ever signed into law, the American public in every poll said by 2 to 1 they didn't like it. So they knew enough not to like it. So the notion that the reason there was not an uprising is because they didn't understand it. They obviously did understand it, but we are, in my opinion, despite the suggestions of both of you, and with which I totally agree, we are a passive population in 2025 that allows ourselves to be abused by our government and do nothing, with some wonderful exceptions, but for the most part, nothing.
But I think what you're laying out, it's not that I disagree with your analysis.
You can't disagree.
But just saying, okay, let's run our head into a brick wall, that doesn't get us forward in our democracy. So the question becomes, what can we do? So one thing that the ACLU has been doing now, we're entering our 3rd or 4th year, is called BIPOC to the ballot box. And we're going in, we've picked 5 communities in Massachusetts, and we're going in and we're working with people who haven't been voting, and finding out why haven't you been voting.
That's what I'm talking. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's great.
And we've seen a turnaround.
What are the 5 communities?
It's, let me get it right, Brockton, Lawrence, Worcester, Springfield, and Pittsfield.
Great.
And
that's great.
What we've seen is a huge, just by talking to people, we hire local people to be canvassers, we work in partnership, and we go and we talk to people, and we find out, and we say, why haven't you been voting? And the biggest answer is, I didn't think it mattered. I didn't think my vote mattered. And I will tell you, we turned that around when down in Brockton, for the first time in a majority-minority community, they elected a woman of color to the school board. by 3 votes.
That's great.
So you think your vote doesn't matter? By 3 votes, we managed to do it. So it is a lot of
Before you say
grassroots. It's very grassroots. It's very local. And we in Massachusetts, because we have city and town government, as opposed to county government, we really have an opportunity to actually model this for the rest of the country. And so we have been building that, and we're seeing transformations, but it's slow, and we have to now scale up.
And Jim, I want to tear away a little bit at the argument that you just made about Americans saying that they're not for the big, beautiful bill. When those people who are doing those polls call, a lot of times they're calling people who are registered voters or voters who are likely to vote. It's the 90 million who didn't vote that Carol is getting to. Right. Those are the people that have to be educated.
I'll take the 150 million who did vote and let them do something, and then worry about the 90 who didn't, and they're not doing anything either. One last thing before you go. We're way over time, but I don't want to miss this, just quickly if we can. We all know that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, and this is not rhetoric, is essentially the private, personal retaliation lawyer for Donald Trump. Yep. The most egregious example is the most current one. Trump had this little outburst in the Oval Office the other day that Barack Obama is guilty of treason. He rigged the 2016 election, the Russian thing. And for those who are going to text now and say he did, Marco Rubio was the chair of the committee in the Senate that determined that none of that was true when he was the United States Senator. Yep. He's now the Secretary of State. So apparently a grand jury is being convened to look into this. We all know the tired old line, a prosecutor, as she used to be, can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich. Exactly. Is it possible, even though the immunity decision, ironically, would protect Obama, I'm not worried about that, is it possible that a grand jury could indict Barack Obama for something that everybody except Trump and his lackeys agreed never happened?
You know, I think with this, getting an indictment, I think it's possible. Getting a conviction, I hope not. And I just think it's like scary and incredibly alarming that this kind of abuse of power is just happening before our eyes, and we need the courts to step in and say, not on our watch. I hope they will, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
You know, and also the
what about the immunity decision? Doesn't the SCOTUS's own immunity decision also give past presidents immunity for decisions they made? So how would they even get an indictment?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Right.
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to try.
You'd like to think that might work. If it works for Trump, that it might work for another president?
Part of it is what we have learned is so many of the aspects of our legal system have been based on norms. And now they've just blown up all the norms. Point. So the question is, do we have to go back and try to codify things that previously were norms and now make them law?
Can I tell you can bring your positivity here any day of the week. Let me tell you. In fact, every day of the week would be
very
useful.
Glad to hear you're doing that initiative. That's fantastic, Carol.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
All right, we have been speaking with Carol Rose, Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union. Coming up after a quick break, 2 of the women behind the Sports Bra Bar. I'm Andrea Cabral. I'm in for Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GPH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library, streaming on youtube.com/GBH News.
Your home for trusted local news. GBH 89.7.
We know Boston. This is our home.
From Beacon Hill
to Dorchester
and every neighborhood.
So when there's news you need to know,
we have the story. GBH News. Online at gbhnews.org. Streaming on the GBH app. And always on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And YW Boston, presenting Lead Boston, equipping professionals with knowledge and networks to support inclusive leadership in organizations and communities. 2026 applications open at ywboston.org/leadboston. And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds from utility bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov.
Welcome back to BPR. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan has a day off. Jim Browdy doesn't have a day off. I am Jim Browdy. But the Secretary of Public Safety, the former Secretary, I haven't got one word right in this so far. The former Secretary of Public Safety, really, is Andrea Cabral. She is in. Hello, Andrea, again.
Hello, Jim, again.
We're live at the Boston Public Library. Tomorrow we'll be joined here by Doris Kearns Goodwin, Presidential Historian Extraordinaire, and Diana DiZoglio, the auditor, to come explain what the status is of question 1, which she sponsored, which is not being honored despite a 70% vote. Speaking of positivity, it started as many things among friends do with a group chat. A bunch of friends just wanted to get together to watch the NCAA Women's Final Four. They then expanded out to WNBA games, soccer championships, and more. But it was hard to find bars where women's sports were actually shown on the screens. So the group chat became Watch With Us Boston. And now they're the people behind a new franchise of the Sports Bra, sports bar dedicated to exclusively showing women's sports, which they hope to open soon in Greater Boston. Marjorie and I, we heard about this in the Globe. We're thrilled. We're joined now at the Boston Public Library by 2 members of that team, Sports Bra Boston, Lydia Coverdale-Perez and Whitney Edwards. Welcome to you both. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks. Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
We're really happy to have you here. So I love the origin story. I love how this starts sort of organically as some conversation, and then it becomes a what if. And it's a really encouraging story for anybody out there that is thinking about sort of starting their own business, but particularly for young women. So tell us a little bit about how the transition from conversation to action, because I think that's what stymies so many people. So I'll start first with Lydia, and then I'll go to Whitney. Give people some insight into how that grows or how they can grow. Because right now, we know that there are people that are having those conversations in their own living room about businesses that they want to start, but they're not at the what-if stage. So tell them how you got there.
Yeah, we are just so excited to be a group of friends that just played and love women's sports fanatically.
And you go way back, right?
We go way back, yeah. Some members of our group have known each other since they were in grade school. And then we kind of have stacked and added on friends and partners as time has gone on. So there's 8 of us in our group: myself, Whitney, Celia, Laura, Janelle, Jackie, Angela, and Dana Marie. We had a group chat where we just talk trash and hang out. Did you see this game? Ooh, that was a great play. Oh, let's go get tickets to this. And then we said, what if we watched these games not just in our living room or not just talking on the group chat? What if we tried to go out and watch games sometimes? Oh, we're starting to realize there's a little bit of a challenge, but there's also a little bit of an interest. So I think this whole thing really started to grow when we realized that other people also wanted to watch women's sports and support and have camaraderie. And so we got really excited to just spread the word about what we were doing in our little group chat. We created an Instagram page. We let people know where we were going to be. And then we did the legwork. We reached out to bars and restaurants. We asked if they had the channels. There are some hoops that you got to jump through when you want to watch women's sports.
And I'm hoping, talk to, because there are a lot. There's fundamental sexism behind most of them. So Whitney, Lydia and Whitney. Yep. Whitney, talk a little bit about how kind of scary it is to go from us sitting around in a place watching to what if we own that place?
Yeah, I think it was a welcome challenge for us by the time we got to that step. Being definitely on the ground, knowing what the Sports Bra was looking to do in terms of expansion. And
the original one was in Oregon.
And the original one is located in Portland, Oregon, out west. So we had a really good sense that they were moving into this, and we jumped on it, honestly. And I think having the sort of footing to have hosted events previously and to have had a little bit of an insight to the landscape, the outreach to a lot of our local bars and restaurants that have supported our initiative as well has been really important. It hasn't been, 100% everyone all in terms of wanting to support us coming in. I mean, even within the last few months, we still get sent to like that back TV and, that doesn't have volume sometimes. That still happens, but we, for the most part, I think it's the power of team, and having 8 people can sometimes be, and having friends, right? People can sometimes be like, that might not work. But we've made it work to this point, and I think our passion, our shared energy around it has really helped to cast us into, where we are at this point.
Lydia, when you did these pop-ups, these Watch With Us Boston, were they well-attended, people into this thing?
It grows. That's the best part. When we first did our first one, we had no idea what we were going to get, and we had almost like 80 people at our first event, and it was just a testament to people do want to see this, people do want to watch women's sports, and they want to support and be together.
You know, it seems to me, we talk, the guest after you is Trenni Casey from NBC Sports Boston, and we talk about women's sports, particularly the WNBA, but soccer a lot with her as well. And I looked up some of the viewership numbers this morning. They are exploding. I mean, it used to be, you know, in the Olympics or the World Cup people would watch, or in a championship game. It's trickling down to everyday games, which it didn't used to be. So if there was ever a market for this, it would seem to be now. So are there, I know you're doing a GoFundMe thing, and Andrea's got some ideas too she'll share with you in a minute, but is there investor interest in this? Have you found that to be the case, Whitney, or no?
I think we're still figuring out what that will look like in its entirety, but there's been nothing but support and outreach since the moment this was
What does
launched.
that mean, nothing but support? Like from what kind of sectors?
You would say people who, everyone looking to, for a job, who wanted to actually come in and do some physical labor, but I think people who also want to be a part of the process of helping us find the right location. And we're open to all of it, right? Because we have our day-to-day, but we're not experts of opening a bar and restaurant. But we've received a lot of support just locally from folks, whether it be, again, where to go, where they would love to see this happen, as well as people who are willing to show up and come into the space and support the events themselves.
We're talking to Lydia Coverdale-Perez and Whitney Edwards, two of the 8 people behind this wonderful idea, Sports Bra Boston, which would be a bar where you can have fun, and every television would have a women's sports kind of thing happening on it.
So you're at the fundraising stage of this, and you do have a GoFundMe going. Another mechanism I was talking to Jim about this morning was the one where you can, and you really do sort of donate or contribute a certain amount of money, but you're sort of promised that it's a sort of an investment. So you're going to get, if I donated $100 down the line, when it becomes profitable, and people understand that it might not become profitable, but if it does, then you get back, $150 or $200 on it. It's sort of a return investment on it. So that, I was just thinking of that as an additional mechanism once you get past the GoFundMe amount that you might be able to offer people, because I think people, while they like to contribute to a GoFundMe, also want to have a sense of, a little skin in the game and get a little return back. So that was the suggestion that Jim was talking about.
It sounds like you're about to be 9 people based upon that suggestion.
Right. Well, I'll probably contribute to the GoFundMe. I'll probably send the money to the GoFundMe anyway. But I wanted to ask you about the specific challenges around it, like the fact that there's still such a very, very small percentage of women's businesses that get funded. When you walk in and ask to get a small business loan, when women walk in, it's very different than when men walk in. And before you can even get to the point of asking a municipality to sort of be all in with you, you have to show so much about potential success. So starting first with you, Lydia, and then going to you, Whitney, how are you able to sort of overcome those barriers to make the proposal persuasive when you have to go up the chain to get bigger and bigger support?
Great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we're really grateful for the Sports Bra original location in Portland, Oregon. They basically created a bridge for us.
Oh, okay.
So by them wanting to open up a franchise opportunity and us jumping on it right away and throwing our hat in the ring, we're Boston. We're Sports City. We're people that have grown up loving sports, rooting up for our teams through thick and thin, and just having like a general excitement for athletics. And so, our pitch to them was really about, this is a great place. This is a place that will be supported. This is a great place because we have so many colleges. We have high school teams. We have professional teams that are starting to come into the area. So we kind of made our pitch known that this is a place that could be a very successful spot.
And she's consulting with you. The owner of the original one in Portland is actually, consulting, sort of part of your team, right?
Yeah, it's awesome to have that experience, right? They're still learning what it will be to expand, but it's definitely been a great process to learn side by side with them. And, I would echo what Lydia's saying about Boston being a sports city. It makes a lot of sense here. And I think our investment in just being on the ground and really being in these communities that we are, from or living in currently has also helped a lot.
Or have coached in.
And have coached in, exactly, yeah. And have coached in. So it's been a lot of alignment, I think, but it was sort of this natural transition, which, again, timing is definitely a big part of that. But we are absolutely fortunate to have them as a resource out west, even though we're going to independently own and operate it here. And it's really exciting.
You know, Shirley DeYoung, who's a regular here, who's a business columnist for the Globe, wrote a piece a few days ago about downtown investment being less focused upon by Mayor Wu than neighborhood investment. And she interviewed a bunch of people, small business people, who got grants from the city, without which, say those people, they wouldn't have been able to open their business. It would seem to me, again, I know nothing about business, I admit that openly, and everything I've ever touched in business has been an abject failure, so you should probably ignore every word I say. Having said that, it seems to me that there got to be cities and towns in and around Greater Boston, maybe Boston itself, that would love to be first. You're not adding to a pile of 18 other places doing the same thing. Right. You're the breakthrough thing. So have you reached out yet to local officials, to councilors, to selectmen, to mayors, to town managers to say, you give us some money and we'll come and open our first operation here?
That's a great question. You're giving us some ideas to go off of.
Is this going to happen? I'm worried. We love this idea.
Yeah.
And I know Andrea does. I know Marjorie does too. I know Trenni Casey did, who's going to be here in a few minutes. Is this going to happen, or is this just a pipe dream for you guys?
No, it's going to happen.
Why do you have such confidence?
I mean, again, you don't have a model to go off of because it's new, right? Mm-hmm. But when you look at the growth of women's sports, when you look at the growth of investment as well, across the board, and you brought up basketball and soccer, there are some indicators, and it is expected to quadruple in terms of, sports bars that have this sort of model of showing women's sports from open to close. It just hasn't panned out yet to where people can see what the numbers are and how they're going to do long term, right? They've only been around about 2-3 years.
How's she doing in Portland? How's she doing in Portland, Oregon?
They're doing
making
awesome.
money?
They're doing awesome. I think they're doing a great job, and again, I think they've kind of set the stage for other people who don't go in under the sports bra umbrella to also want to do this in their own neighborhoods. So even before this happened, coming into 2025, it was expected to quadruple. All of those won't be sports bras, but there will definitely be an expansion, I think, across the country with it.
I'd suggest seeking out, at the city council level, whoever chairs their economic development committee on the Boston City Council, state legislators that chair economic committees within the state legislature, having a champion. It's not necessarily certainly not going to get involved in the fundraising level or do all that kind of stuff, but really they can give really, really good advice. And they always want to be on the forefront of something that results in an economic boom, and not necessarily in Boston. You're going to find legislators who are saying, hey, come to where the place where I represent folks, come to my district, because we could really use something like that, and building even a sense of competition around where you could be cited, because there's tons of places you could cite this, and people will come from everywhere to go there. So that's just my suggestion around it. But yes, I totally agree with Jim and Marjorie and Trenni. I think this idea is fantastic. I wish you guys nothing but
I have one more idea. It's like they came here to talk to two consultants who have no idea what they're talking about.
But we're free. We're free.
We are free. Well, you know what's not free? There's a guy who has offered $325 million to the Connecticut Sun.
Yeah.
To buy that team, said that in addition to the $325 million, Steve Paliuk, obviously, if he gets it, he's going to build a $100 million practice facility here. I don't mean it's a joke. I mean, let him drop another $1 million on this. Talk about a parallel kind of thing right in his own backyard. He brings the team here, which is still up in the air. We'll talk.
Yeah, but he doesn't get to own it
in a few minutes. No, he doesn't get the. He invests in it, and I assume he get a piece of the. But you're raising a lot of hopes, I guess, is the bottom line. So you got to make it happen. Are all 8 of you either athletes or coaches or that sort of thing, Whitney?
For the most part, I was a college basketball coach for 14 years.
You were?
Yeah, I was.
Where were you? Is it Northeastern? Is that where were you?
That was my last stop. Yeah.
It was?
Yep.
And what's your deal? Are you in the sports world too, other than this?
Yeah, actually an official. So everyone's favorite person at a sporting event. So I officiate basketball at the high school and collegiate level.
So you're not old, but are you old enough to remember even 10 years back when you had you could this is the number of people
Right.
that were interested in seeing a women's sporting event. And now we know the Garden was sold out twice.
Absolutely.
For the Sun, obviously, Caitlin Clark.
See,
was
I think the interest was always there. It was just that nobody thought it was important enough.
Maybe you're right.
That's always
They're
the
nodding,
case.
I should say, if
that's
you're not watching
always
on
the
YouTube,
case.
yeah.
It's about what you tell
you're
people
probably
they should be watching.
And what's
so if we
available,
get the Connecticut Sun, that will certainly help, right? Because there will be a ton of people wanting to watch. So I guess you're probably rooting for that.
And I've been in the W fan since '97, so that love for me will not die or go away.
You get grandfathered into everything.
I hope so. But I think it's having conversations like this where you guys are also able to ask us questions so that we can share more on what the landscape looks like, because a lot of people still don't know.
Right.
Whether it's a women's own bar that's showing sports all day that are only women's sports, or if it's the sports bar specifically, there's a lot of folks that still are learning about what that is. So
I just
we
noticed the
appreciate it.
T-shirts. They're great, by the way.
Yeah.
If people want to get involved in any fashion, is there a website for this deal, or how do they find you guys?
Yeah.
Find the GoFundMe.
Yes. Here, I got one of these little guys if they could see it, but zoom in.
Okay, well, if they don't
I
have
know if you can see it, but yep, you can follow us, the Sports Bra Boston, right there. We have our info all on Instagram. And
What's the Instagram page?
This is the Sports Bra Boston.
Oh, that makes
is our
sense,
main.
I guess. Okay.
It's all good. Keep you on your toes.
Okay, great. So you're going to
This
come
is
back soon and tell
fabulous.
us this is happening, I hope? Yes. Say
Yeah,
yes.
we really
Okay.
thank you guys for the
Keep us
representation.
yes.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Yeah.
We're totally into this. We wish you a lot of luck, and we hope you come back soon and announce the opening. Good
Thank
to see
you
you
very
both.
much.
Good to see you. Good to meet
Thank
you.
for having us.
Say hi to your 6 colleagues, too.
We will.
Great.
We've been speaking with Lydia Coverdale-Perez and Whitney Edwards, 2 of the co-owners behind the Sports Bra Boston. Coming up after a quick break, the 5 minutes of your day that you've been waiting for, our 2 More Things segment.
I wouldn't go
I'm
that
Andrea
far.
Cabral. I'm in for Marjorie. That was clearly sarcastic. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GPH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Radio and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
If the tag on your clothes says made in the USA, what do you assume about the working conditions of the people who made it?
Would like a generous estimate be like every single person who touched this piece got 40 cents?
40 cents is probably too high.
I'm Elsa Chang. We dive into the reality of garment workers in America on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And the Museum of Printing in Haverhill, preserving the history of graphic communication from typewriters and presses to computers and copiers. Their expanded exhibit of rare and historic Bibles is now on view. More at museumofprinting.org. And the Foundation for Chinese Performing Arts, presenting 15 concerts at NEC beginning on August 7th. August 16th is the Fao Zong International Concerto Competition. Details at ChinesePerformingArts.net.
Welcome back to BPR. Jim Browdy, former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety, Andrea Cabral, sitting in for Marjorie. We're at the library. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back here tomorrow, State Auditor Diana DiZoglio and Doris Kearns Goodwin. Before I say, Andrea, what's your one more thing? It's a Gallup poll on CNN right now. Do you know who the 2 most popular politicians in America are? Don't look.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to know.
Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh.
That really...
Well, that was one pleasant
poll.
surprise for the day.
Wow, that is amazing. In any case, it's time for 2 more things. I don't know if there's as much demand as she says, but demand or not, we're plowing ahead. What's your one more thing, Andrea Cabral?
I'm just going to reiterate and recommend people to the piece by Elie Mystal in The Nation called The Rule of Law is Dead in the United States. People, it's brilliantly written, very, very clear, impossible to not understand. And it's the point of it is that we need to recognize the peril that we are in as a country, and whether you do something small or something big, to do something to set us on a different course, because he's absolutely right. The law no longer applies to Trump or to his administration, and the notion that there is ever going to be a time when he comports with it or that the other 2 branches of government will stop ceding their power to him is a pipe dream unless we make them do their jobs.
Okay, so my one more thing is about one of my favorite topics, transparency or lack of transparency, and specifically in the mayor's race. And there are a couple of things to focus on. If you read the Globe this morning, you read about Josh Kraft, the major challenger to Mayor Wu, for whom fundraising mailers are being sent out saying, give jointly to me, and the me included United States Senator Adam Schiff from California, Eric Swalwell from California, Crockett, a whole bunch of prominent people, and Kraft. Well, it turns out the Globe learned that none of those politicians had endorsed Kraft.
Shocking.
And by the way, mistakes are made, but the mistake that I think that was made in terms of honesty and transparency is the spokespeople, the advisors for the campaign, rather than saying we made a mistake, we're sorry, they blame the vendors. Sort of like when they blamed the people hosting a fundraiser at the beginning of Josh's campaign when they had the skyline of New York City, not the skyline of Boston in the background, etc. But the most troubling lack of transparency on the part of the Kraft campaign that should matter to everybody who votes in Boston was the other day Kraft released information on his finances and his income last year. He had promised the Globe he would release his income tax return. He did not and will not, according to his campaign. He released a financial document that said he made $6.3 million last year. I think paid a little more than $2 million in taxes. The problem is he failed to disclose what any of the sources of the $6.3 million are. I have to say, Andrea, through my whole career here, my default has been if any public official, Republican, Democrat, in between, fails to disclose something that they obviously should, you are entitled to draw the worst conclusion about that failure to be transparent. Is that unfair?
No, it's not unfair. And there have been states that have actually passed laws that say the refusal to disclose your tax return in the wake of Trump's refusal all these years to do it is disqualifying. You can't even get on the ballot.
And the way to rebut that is tell us, even if you're not going to release tax return, what the source of the $6.3 million was. Now, on the other side, the mayor needs a little more transparency boost, too. Kraft and we have talked a lot about White Stadium. The mayor admitted to us a few months ago on the air that the city's share, the taxpayers' share of the cost was going to be greater than originally thought. She said in the last couple of weeks that she wouldn't have the final number till the end of the year. End of the year is after people vote. In fairness to voters, you have an obligation as mayor, in my estimation, to disclose as much as you can, even if it's not final, before people go to the polls in November. Do you agree
At
with
least
that
an
part, too?
updated estimate is what you're basically saying.
Exactly.
If you don't
Do the
have the
best you
final
can.
number, right.
Okay,
right.
so we're in agreement on both. So the bottom line is transparency, I hope, matters. Voters deserve it. But I guess to channel Carol Rose from before, you don't get it unless you demand it. And I think people should on both sides of the equation. That's it. Oh, and by the way, on the Tuesday and Wednesday of the last week of August, on the Tuesday, Mayor Wu will be with us. On the Wednesday, Josh Kraft will be with us. Both here at the library? Yes.
That
That's
ought to be good.
Thanks.
Coming up after the 1 o'clock news, NBC Sports Boston's Trenni Casey is here. I'm Andrea Cabral. I'm in for Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
If you're a GBH member, you can access thousands of hours of PBS programs online with GBH Passport. If you're already a member, just register online today or become a member and sign up instantly at gbh.org/passport.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Mass General Brigham. Their leading heart and vascular specialists are committed to providing breakthrough care to patients with cutting-edge research and innovative treatments. Learn more at massgeneralbrigham.org/heart. And the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, helping families overcome the college planning stress. Committed to providing trusted guidance with calculators, step-by-step videos, and more. Details at mefa.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 3 of BPR, live from the Boston Public Library. We'll talk with NBC Sports Boston's Trenni Casey and what a posh new $83 million sports academy means for New England's next generation of athletes, and if a WNBA team is really coming to Boston in 2027.
I'm Andrea Cabral, in for Marjorie Egan. Then we'll open up the lines to talk about the pressure to give the perfect gift, or any gift, to kids and adults. What if you don't know what someone wants, or whether they want anything at all? Maybe, like the hilarious SNL skit, you rummage through a closet, dig out an old scented candle, and hope for the best? Or are gift cards the ticket? How much of it is heartfelt, and how much ends up in a landfill? Call or text next on the third hour of BPR on 89.7 GBH, live from the BPL.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Texas House is set to reconvene soon after it adjourned when it was unable to reach a quorum. Democratic lawmakers left the state Sunday to block a campaign to redraw Texas's congressional map ahead of next year's midterm elections. This morning, on the eve of the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, Democratic National Committee Chair Ken Martin accused the GOP of unfairly redrawing a map to favor election chances for Republicans and disenfranchising minority voters in the process.
Just as the icons of the civil rights movement marched, protested, and got into good trouble, just as Dr. King and Fannie Lou Hamer and John Lewis fought to ensure that Americans could access the ballot regardless of the color of their skin, so too are these courageous Texas House Democrats standing up and fighting back against a racial gerrymandering scheme to disenfranchise Black and Latino voters.
On Fox News, Texas Governor Greg Abbott defended the redistricting vote.
Gerrymandering can be done, or drawing lines can be done, on the basis of political makeup, as in Republican versus Democrat, and there's nothing illegal about that. And then when you look at the outcome of the most recent presidential election, all these districts that are being added are districts that were won by Trump.
Meanwhile, President Trump's eyeing candidates for Federal Reserve Chair who'll lower interest rates. NPR's Frank Ordonez reports Trump says he's ruling out Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
President Trump says he's narrowed the field of potential candidates to lead the Federal Reserve to about 4 people. He told CNBC that likely candidates include Director of the National Economic Council Kevin Hassett and former Federal Reserve Governor Kevin Warsh. Trump would not say who the remaining candidates are, but pointed out that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is not one of them.
Because I asked him just last night, is this something you want? Nope, I want to stay where I am. He actually said, I want to work with you. It's such an honor. I said, that's very nice. I appreciate that.
Jerome Powell is the current chair of the Federal Reserve. His term ends in May, and Trump has frequently attacked Powell for not lowering interest rates. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
A record catch of krill near Antarctica is resulting in an unprecedented early end to the fishing season. The Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources confirmed the early closure of the season. Krill is central to marine ecosystems and an overall buffer against climate change. The decision to end the season early followed a report that showed a surge in krill catches after the U.S., Russia, China, and other governments failed to approve a new management plan. The Dow is down slightly. You're listening to NPR News.
Good afternoon from the GBH studios in Boston. I'm Soraya Wintersmith. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey is defending her handling of the influx of migrants into the state, following a story from the Boston Herald today that she was warned about the incoming surge and dwindling state shelter capacity months before she took office. The warning came from Republican gubernatorial candidate Mike Neely when he was Secretary of Housing and Economic Development under Governor Charlie Baker. The Herald writes that the warning came with no major recommendations beyond spending money and expanding emergency assistance shelter. A spokesperson for Healey says the governor could not have foreseen the scope of need and that she took actions like implementing a length of stay limit and requirements for background checks and proof of Massachusetts residency. And air quality is better today than yesterday. Even still, Canadian wildfire smoke is causing alerts across New England. People are being advised to limit their time outdoors, including children, older adults, and those with lung or breathing conditions like asthma. In sports, the Red Sox are back again for Game 2 of their 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals. They're taking the field with a 7-game winning streak. You can find out if they keep that going, starting with that first pitch at 7:10. They'll play under cloudy skies tonight in cool temperatures hovering around the mid-60s. And again, those with lung and breathing concerns are advised to limit their time and activities outside. Right now it's hazy and breezy and 75 in Boston. You're listening to GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive, with small business insurance for protecting a variety of business types with multiple coverage options, designed to fit business owners' needs. More about small business insurance is at progressivecommercial.com.
Welcome to Hour 3 of Boston Public Radio. I am Jim Browdy. Marjorie Egan's off for a couple of days. Sitting in today is the former Secretary of Public Safety from Massachusetts, Andrea Cabral. Hello, Andrea.
Hello.
Hello. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back here tomorrow with one of our favorite guests. They're all our favorite guests, but presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin and State Auditor Diana DiZoglio, who's going to tell you why the ballot question that 70% of you voted for to audit the legislature has not happened. Speaking of sports bra, we're now moving to sports. Well, that was a horrible way to put that.
Well, that's
Let's
okay.
start over
You
again.
already made it known I'm not one of your favorite guests.
No,
So now I'm also just a
I was about
sports
to
bra.
say, now from sports bra to sports anchor, and one of our favorite guests.
There you go.
Trenni Casey from NBC Sports Boston.
That was
She's
great.
an excellent BPR contributor. Trenni, it's great to see you.
I mean, Doris Kearns Goodwin is pretty badass,
Yeah,
so I
no,
got it's okay. It's all right. It's all right.
She likes that kind of
Yes.
talk, by the way.
So we were all sitting around the old sports bra the other day talking, Trenni. And so this $325 million, I mean, that ain't chicken feed, as they say. Where do things stand? I know you get up to the minute information. So where do things stand right now? And where's the WNBA's head at? Because that seems to be the last piece to fall in place.
That seems to be the hurdle right now. So for those of you who didn't pay attention over the weekend, the Globe broke the story, and then I added a little bit
You
to
sure
it.
as hell did. You did.
Yeah.
The Mohegan
You have
Sun.
good sources, by the way.
Mohegan Sun wants to sell the Connecticut Sun. And Steve Pagliuca, a minority owner in the Celtics, made an offer, a very, very competitive offer for $325 million, with an additional $100 million dedicated to a brand new practice facility. So in total, it's a $425 million bid to bring the Connecticut Sun to Boston. Now, I have been told that it will still be a New England team. That the city and state are on board with this. The Celtics are on board with this, that this is a very desirable location for a WNBA team. The hurdle right now is the WNBA themselves. They had open for expansion. You could make your bid up until January to have an expansion team, and no ownership group from Boston entered that fray. And so they are saying, and my sources tell me that the hang up and why they don't want to approve this bid is they think it's better suited to wait and hold Boston as a possible expansion market in 2033. Now, that's if they expand in 2033, because that means the league has to continue growing at the rate that it's growing and be profitable to add more teams in 2033, and that you have someone who's available in 2033 that wants to add a team to Boston.
Why are they taking that position?
I don't know.
I'll tell
That
you
is
why.
the one thing we don't know.
They want the franchise fee. They don't want a team being bought and just moving. They want Boston to pay, what is it, $250 million?
So it's 200 right now. The franchise fee is $250 million. But
it's kind of say it seems to me to be ridiculous, because why would you bid for a franchise from Boston if there's still a team in Connecticut where you're competing for the exact same area?
Right. So there's that, and there's also it's not a secret that Mohegan Sun has been looking to sell the Connecticut Sun.
Right.
We've been talking about this as a possibility for a while now. So if you know you can buy a ready-made product, why in the world would you want to start all over with an expansion team and then have to compete? Like, it does not make sense to have two teams. It does not make sense to basically have three teams. And I know New York is not New England, but essentially in that East Coast stretch, because then you would have one in Boston, Connecticut, New York City, and now Philadelphia just got an expansion team. So over the course of like an 8-hour drive, you have 4 teams. Like, that just doesn't make sense. So there's been a new little wrinkle thrown into this. Mark Lasry, I think that's how you say his last name, the former owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, a big, financier in New York, he has come in and made a bid to buy the Connecticut Sun, keep them in Connecticut, and then move them to the city, I think to Hartford. There's like a newly remodeled arena going up there. So he has now entered the fray. Not as big of a bid. I think the reports yesterday were $300 million, but still more than has ever been paid for.
The notion that WNBA would not be salivating to have a franchise in Boston at the time of this great is insane.
Well, I also feel like, you know what? Listen, not that I don't want to discount Connecticut.
Feel free, it's okay. No, it's fine.
You
listen, drive right through it to go to New York. It's excellent.
They have done a great job with the Sun, and I think Mohegan Sun doesn't want to I don't think they want to just sell to anyone. They really want to keep this a New England team. They want it to be successful. They want to put the team, from everything I'm understanding, from what I'm hearing, is that they want for this team to be as successful as possible. And it's hard not to think that Boston is the best place for that, because not only then do you get the Connecticut's, the Rhode Islands, the New Hampshires, the Vermonts, but you're in a big city and they play in the summer when maybe a family who's coming to visit from another city doesn't have the option to see a WNBA team. There's nothing else going on at the Garden at that time. And it's not going to sell out like it does for the one game a year at the Garden, but that shows that there is such intense interest in it that they can sell out the Garden 2 years in a row. Keep in mind, it wasn't Caitlin Clark that they sold out in year one. It was the Los Angeles Sparks, which was it wasn't a team that people necessarily were clamoring to go see play. They just wanted to see the WNBA. But you will probably at the very least sell out the lower bowl and maybe the suite, like that. It'll energize that part of the city. I don't see a downfall of it. But apparently the WNBA Board of Governors does.
So just stepping back for a second, and this is just me being probably overly optimistic, because we see things in terms of the money, right? The money talks. This is a great bid. Could any part of this be them simply not wanting to set the precedent that once they open a bid process, and if you don't get in during that bid process, you can't come later because you got deeper pockets, and completely subvert that? Could their position on this be part of that?
The only reason I would say no is because it's not like Steve Pagliuca went down to Mohegan Sun and said, listen, if you want to sell this team, I'll give you this for it. It has been a not quiet secret that Mohegan Sun is looking to sell the team. So I don't think that this somehow indicates that all of a sudden it's going to be a king's ransom to be moving teams all over the place and someone's going to go in and quote unquote kind of steal a team away. This was a team that people knew was up for sale and somebody made a bid on it. So I don't think it would be a free-for-all.
Okay. Let's hear what one of the players on the Connecticut Sun thinks about this. This is Tina Charles talking about the team's possible move to Boston.
Just looking forward to what we deserve and what we should have, what our male counterparts have. Kudos to the person who wants to invest and want to grow the game and keep it in New England.
And one last thing about the WNBA's
Sounds
decision.
to me, by the way, like Tina Charles really wants them to accept this.
Yeah, I would say so.
You have Pagliuca, who is the minority owner of one of the most successful franchises in the NBA.
He's a local guy. Exactly. He wants it to succeed. Listen, he wasn't able to buy the Celtics, but he loves basketball. And also to me, somebody said, oh, well, this is, this is just second place. And I said, well, why is it second place? He loves basketball so much, and he believes in this product of basketball so much that he is willing to invest a record amount into a team because he feels so strongly about
this is the most money for any women's sports team.
Most money for any women's sports team in U.S. sports history.
Well, he's willing to prove the proposition that if you build it, they will come. That as we were saying with the guests we had just now. The audience has always been there. They just haven't had a place to go to.
Yes, exactly.
By the way, before we continue, since we mentioned Doris Kearns Goodwin before, Jamie just wrote me a note. He canceled Juliette Kayyem to make room for Doris tomorrow. Juliette just emailed Jamie and said, quote, I told my mom they bumped me for Doris, and my mom said, obviously, I would too. So that is Juliette's mother.
This is why we love Juliette
taking the correct position.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who gets bumped. I'm glad Juliette does every once in a while.
She is pretty incredible.
She's awesome.
We're talking to Trenni Casey. Hi.
Hi.
So how about those Red Sox? And NECN with their first all-female crew going.
Yes. So I have strong feelings about the one-off all-females. But so we'll start with my positive feelings. My positive feelings. Listen, the Red Sox are certainly
make it a sandwich. Do the positive, then a negative, then a positive.
The Red Sox are certainly sending a message to Craig Breslow and ownership, like, hey, you didn't want to invest in us at the trade deadline. Fine, we're just going to go out and continue to show you that we are a good team and we're going to win. I still think they completely botched the trade deadline. I think you could have gotten small but yet impactful reinforcements to put this team in an even better position. Like, I think right now they are highly favored to make the postseason, but they have very low odds of going very deep in the postseason. And like, what I don't want is the Red Sox to turn into the Bruins, where, you know, the ownership is just happy to do enough that you get into the postseason every year, you get the concessions at the gate, and then we go on our merry way. Like, this is a big market. I made a point yesterday on my show. The three teams that are playing the absolute best baseball right now, the Boston Red Sox, the Miami Marlins, and the Milwaukee Brewers. Like, I'm a huge Brewers fan. I never hide that. I grew up in Milwaukee. I love them. I live and die with them. But, like, they're not a great franchise because they don't have a lot of money to spend. So they're always sort of like scratching and clawing their way at the edges. And then when October comes, they can't do anything because they have not invested in the players that can take them over the finish line. Like, so congratulations, Red Sox. You're on a really good run along with the Miami Marlins and the Milwaukee Brewers.
You and I had a bit of an argument last time you were here about the Red Sox, and we're about to have another one. Admittedly, everybody who's a Sox fan was disappointed they didn't pick up big names. This same general manager, whatever he is, who's being trashed for not Breslow, in the offseason, signed a $40 million a year player who's arguably the best player on the team,
Alex Bregman,
signed a $30 million a year pitcher who's arguably the best pitcher on the team. It seems to me that's an ownership that is willing to spend a ton of dough.
That's not a lot of money in baseball.
It's
just
not?
It's not a lot of money in baseball, Jim. It's just not. They
$40 million a year?
No, that's nothing in baseball now.
It is?
That's like, and it's a 1 year. That Alex Bregman deal is a 1 year deal. He can opt out of it after this year.
You're going to change your tune when they re-sign him for long term?
That'd be great if they re-sign him for long term, and hopefully they do a smart deal. The issue is, and you've brought this up before, is, well, they won 4 championships, so they won 4 championships. Okay, if you were on the air for 100 and so many every years, and you had 4 really good years, would you think your bosses would be like, wow, you finished in last 6 of the last 7 years, but hey, you did win the ratings 10 years ago.
We would make that case that we did lose.
Right, exactly.
Like, that's just not how
I got one more thing to say to you, and I'm doing this out of self-protection. I will admit, and I have before, no one in politics has made fewer correct predictions about politics than me. I am wrong about almost everything.
Yes.
So I'm honest about that. However, I am Nostradamus next to people in the sports business. As you may know, Marjorie knows, I listen to sports radio like 5 minutes a day. Well, no, I listen to every talk show in Boston, even the worst ones, for 5 or 10 minutes a day, just to get a sense of what they're talking about. Here's what happened in the last month. Red Sox win 10 games in a row. Everybody says they're going to the World Series. It's the most exciting thing ever. They have an All-Star break. They come back from the All-Star break. They do horribly in 2 series. Everybody says that was a mirage. It was 10 games against horrible teams. And then they become the winningest team in baseball for the last 8 or 10 games.
They're not the winningest team in baseball.
Well, one of the winningest teams in baseball.
That's
and everybody
the Milwaukee
says,
Brewers, Jim.
this is the team for the future again. So will you acknowledge that people in your industry have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to predictions?
I don't think we have any idea. We don't have any idea what we're talking about, but I do think we are prisoners of a moment, and it's very easy to get caught up in the good or the bad of something and not look at from the view of 30,000 feet.
In the words of Brian Fontana from Anchorman, 60% of the time it works every time.
Yes, exactly.
One of the funniest movies ever.
It really
ever.
is.
Okay.
It totally is. So now about NECN. You have mixed feelings?
Nesson.
I mean, I'm sorry. I'm so used to saying NECN.
No, it's okay. Yeah. I mean, listen, my network does this too. We do these all-female broadcasts, and I'm not quiet or shy about my opinion on them. They're a novelty. if you really think females are capable of doing it, then hire a full-time female play-by-play. Hire a full-time female director. Like doing it one-offs every once in a while to pat yourself on the back and say, oh, look at us, we put girls on the air today. Like, congratulations. Do it all the time. If a woman is qualified to do it, then hire her to do it day in and day out. Otherwise, honestly, knock it off. That's my theory.
That's one of our favorite guests, Trenni, I want you to say.
And I love the fact that every time you guys have a discussion on the air, it sounds like an argument. I really do. It's delightful to listen to.
Well, you and I do the same sort of thing.
Yeah, we do.
Trenni Casey.
Speaking of Sports Talk Radio, I hear that's how you get ratings. Yeah. So you just argue all the time.
Can we, actually, one more positive thing before we spend a minute on a really horrible story Bob Huller wrote about in the Globe about this young athlete at a high school in Sharon who is seriously disabled because of hits to the head. I didn't even know about this till last night. The Master Academy International, I think I got the name right.
It's so interesting.
Did you know about this?
So I only knew about it because I saw a piece in the Globe. So basically, if any of you are familiar with this, there's probably the most famous one is in Florida. It's called the IMG Academy. It's where like the best of the best athletes go to train and go to school. It's like a boarding school.
It's just youth sports.
Sorry, young athletes, yes.
Just
youth sports, like middle and high school. Mm-hmm. And Massachusetts is investing $85 million into one in Stow. Am I got that right?
Yeah, I don't think it's a government investment. I think it's a private sector investment.
Private sector investment. Sorry, private sector
but
investment.
But it is in Stow.
In this academy for athletes where basically you major in fencing, you major in ice hockey, tennis, all these different, and the goal is to keep high-level athletes in New England and on the East Coast. So rather than go down to Bradenton, Florida, or I think there's a bunch of them like in Virginia, a lot of them are in the South, marry up the high academic standards of New England boarding and day schools, private day schools, with excelling at athletics. And they've gotten one of the biggest pushers for this is USA Fencing. USA Fencing is moving its entire operation from Colorado Springs, Colorado, to Massachusetts, so that they can, because the East Coast apparently is where most people fence. I guess it's where it's still the most popular. Sport to put your kids in. And so there's going to be all these different programs. So if you want to go to, rather than go to, like my husband went to St. Mark's and to play ice hockey.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Rather than necessarily go there, maybe now if you have real potential to maybe play at a high Division I level or professionally, maybe you're geared more towards, or your parents just want to invest more in your athletic and academic upbringing, they'll send you to this academy.
And by the way,
they're still
5
taking
hours,
regular classes, by the way.
Exactly,
it's not just a
5 hours of academics a day. And what they argue is, because I don't know much about this except what I read, is that the Cooper Flags of the world from Maine, the young man from Brockton, who many people think he's about to enter college. It was a great story in the Globe. I can't pronounce his last name. But he's brilliant, and people say he's the Cooper Flag of this year. May not have left the state, and in Flag's case, not left Maine. They might have stayed here. It's great.
Yeah, so can I just ask about the impact? So now we've got college athletes in a position to be paid. What do you think the impact is on other schools that simply offer academic scholarships or academic benefit? Sports scholarships, athletic benefits, but they're primarily there. People are primarily there for the academics. It would seem to be almost a seismic shift in the focus, right? If you can go to a place that prizes the athletic over the academic, not that they're not providing the academic, wouldn't most people who are skilled in academics flock there?
Well, I don't know. I guess
it sets up a competition at the very least, right?
You mean like in high school, would kids choose to want to go to this Massachusetts place?
If they can get in.
Right. But one, it's like any other private boarding school. I mean, in order to go there, the day school's $50,000 a year. The boarding school's $70,000 a year. They do have academics. I don't know. I went to just a regular old public school in Wisconsin, and I'm sure it shows quite often. So I don't know what the competition level is to get in, but I'm sure enrollment at these places are smaller. Class sizes are smaller. You're going. It's probably a little bit. I don't know this for sure. This is just an educated guess. Maybe sort of like going to college, where it's sort of highly competitive, and they recruit in ways and kind of look at
That's
kids.
what I'm thinking.
But that happens already at these other places. So this is just Massachusetts. I think is just trying to use a terrible like sports analogy here, trying to get in the game on this and be a part of it.
By the way, to their credit, in that story we read, the founders of this thing are talking about big-time scholarships too.
Yes.
Financial aid for
And they're
people
talking
who
about-
are lower, moderate income who can't afford the
They're talking
food.
about jobs it can bring to Stow.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge.
Possible, like
It's
think
huge.
about it. If you send your kid, instead of you sending your kid from Maine to wherever Cooper Flag went, I think it might have been like Virginia. Maybe now a kid in Virginia or Florida or California, the middle of the country, sends their kid out here. Like I have a friend I went to college with. She sends her daughter to Holderness and her son to Cardigan Mountain because they're both big skiers, and those are ski schools in the Northeast. So that brings so now they. What?
Not laughing at you. This is so typical. Anonymous
I was like,
texter.
I do have some fancy friends.
No, this is not you. An anonymous texter says, Massachusetts has a lot of fencers. Can you imagine Jim Browdy fencing on guard? Exactly. I'm with you on that
Fencing
one.
is fascinating.
My daughter fenced at Smith, and she's not a great athlete. She really got into it, by the way.
Well, the thrust and parry stuff is
Don't reflect
universal.
on me through her. She was quite good at this.
Okay.
Can we,
Yeah,
you're not,
we gotta-
I totally blew this because
No,
we
that's
try
good.
to end on an up note. This is one of the worst stories. This is a story Bob Holler has done 2 pieces on. Brilliant reporter of the Globe, but for this young man, Rohan Shukla, who I think is a sophomore, and was a sophomore
At
there.
Sharon High School.
Sharon High School playing football. Can you briefly tell people what happened and what the dispute is all about?
He is paralyzed. He's in a wheelchair. He had a brain bleed. Through investigations, it has come out that Sharon High School did not have the proper athletic trainers and medical attention at
Part-time staff.
Part-time staff instead of full-time staff at their high school. So this young man,
No ambulance at the field like the other
this young
schools
man
do?
had a concussion.
No protocols.
No protocols because there's no full-time athletic director. I believe had another head impact in a practice. So he
right
had a
before
concussion
Thanksgiving, yep.
in a game, a head impact in practice like a week or so later, and then while in a game suffered a catastrophic brain injury, was on the field. They had no ambulance, so they had to wait for an ambulance to come get him, and then they took him, I think, to Brockton, which is a low trauma 1 hospital. They didn't have the resources to help him, so they had to fly him to MGH. I mean, MGH saved his life. The brain bleed was so severe that he has very little use, like no use, I believe, of his limbs. I don't know, he can't feed himself, but he still has this very upbeat attitude. And because of this wonderful surgeon at MGH, he's made some progress. But really, the story is about how the high school is refusing to release the independent investigation into what happened. And they're citing...
Paid for with taxpayer money, $10,000.
Paid for with taxpayer money, but they're citing family privacy. And the family's saying,
We waive that.
We waive that. We want you to tell people what's going on because this cannot happen again. The family did not comment on pending litigation against... It's just a really tragic, terrible story. And it just highlights, I think, again... the mom in the story didn't want the kid to play football, but the kid loves it so much and he wanted to play. So they let him play, thinking that at the very least, at that level, the high school would look out for his best interest. And it was these repeated blows to the head that led to this catastrophic brain injury that has dramatically altered the course of this young man's life. It's great reporting once again from Bob Holler, but just a really gut-wrenching story. And once again, brings up the conversation of tackle football and should you let your kids play and at what age and
if you're a school and you're going to let your kids play, let the kids in your community play, then you have to have proper support in terms of trainers, ambulances, medical expertise, or don't do the damn
the other
thing.
interesting note in here, and I'm curious what impact this may play down the line, is they talk about how the Sharon football team was not very good, and they were playing against teams that were bigger, stronger, faster, and so many kids were getting hurt, and they just kept playing these games, and it was like they weren't even competitive yet. You kept rolling these high school kids out for what? So that the parents can sit in the stands.
They were
and
0-11, lost 11
it's just
out of 11
it's really from start to finish. It's a terrible
But it's not,
story.
it's also, it's looking at the I can't imagine a sort of larger group of failures. But the fact that a judge is going to have to order them to turn this report over, clearly, because they're not going to turn it over. And it's clearly about the fear of litigation, which is going to cost the town. But I don't want us to miss the fact that in places that don't have those kinds of resources, they usually tend to be places where you'd have to say, we need an override, right? We need to raise taxes so that we can fund all of our schools' extracurricular activities, because schools don't do that anymore. The taxpayer base isn't large enough to do that. And when you do that, people get upset because their taxes are raised. So that part of the reason they're making do is because they can't see a way probably to get increased resources without raising people's taxes.
Yeah.
And nobody who's an elected official wants to go to the public and say something about the need to raise taxes.
Well, I agree with everything you said, but there are solutions. One solution is if you can't properly staff a dangerous sport,
you don't have it, but they want to have their cake and eat it too. No, it's true.
I'm not one who believes we should have 351 cities and towns. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Let Sharon go to the neighboring town and say, let's combine our kids. So it's the Sharon/whatever team, and there will be adequate resources. Just the notion that you leave and by the way, the last thing I'll say is what you said. While the pain in the story is deep, the resilience and the spirit of this young man
is unbelievable.
He's a twin.
It's amazing.
So every day his twin looks at his twin brother,
and he's providing inspiration.
Yes.
His twin comes home from a bad, I think, pitching or something.
Yeah, he's a baseball player, and he tells
the
him,
young
like,
man
chin
who's
up.
paralyzed is giving him.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
He's a real
story.
lesson in like making the best of whatever situation you're dealt. Like, he's an incredible kid.
We wish him a lot of luck, and we wish the family
but also
a lot
lesson
of luck
to parents
with the
to
city.
demand the proper resources before they let their kids participate in stuff like this.
Football, for sure.
Good to see you, Trenni.
Always great to see you,
One
Trenni.
of our favorite guests,
Oh,
Trenni Casey.
thanks.
You've always said that.
Yeah, now he's just sucking up to you, Trenni. We've been speaking with Trenni Casey, anchor and reporter at NBC Sports Boston. She's also a BPR contributor. Coming up after this quick break, we're opening up the phone and text lines. Is it time we stopped all the wasteful birthday gifts for adults? And what about the kids? I'm Andrea Cabral in for Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Live from the Boston Public Library. We're also streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, ICE agents across the country are wearing masks while making arrests. Lawmakers from across the country are gathering in Boston to find a way to end the practice. And top Democrats are slamming Boston mayoral candidate Josh Kraft for using their names to raise cash without permission. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Cape Playhouse in Dennis Village. Now playing Come From Away, the hit Broadway musical that is a celebration of the best of humankind. Tickets at capeplayhouse.com. And Rockland Trust Bank, helping foster healthy relationships with money by providing education and resources to the community, one neighborhood at a time. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan is off. I am Jim Browdy. I am not off. The former Secretary of
You
Public
are a
Safety.
little off.
Well, I knew you'd say that, and I would acknowledge that's probably true. That would be Andrea Cabral, who we just mentioned. She's here. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back here tomorrow with presidential historian Doris Kearns-Goodwin, state auditor Diana DiZoglio, and a ton more. So summer is the season of cookouts, family reunions, kids' outdoor birthday parties, complete with stress shopping for last-minute gifts for the Rugrats. We're inspired by a piece in the Globe by Joshua, I think his name is Peterson, P-D-E-R-S-O-N, where he writes, quote, I can't tell you how many times I raced through the toy aisle 20 minutes before a trampoline park birthday party searching for something, anything to give to an elementary school kid I couldn't pick out of a lineup. We're opening the lines at 877-301-8970. Caller text, is it time to cut back on birthday gifts, on gift giving in general? Adults, at what age is it okay to just say happy birthday and enough is enough for the tyranny of giving cheap crap gifts every week? Or does skipping gifts, especially for kids, rob them, I don't know, of the excitement and joy of getting something special in the day? This guy Peterson suggests instead of giving gifts to kids, you Venmo the amount of money you would have spent on the gift, oy, is all I can say, and half of it goes to charity, so the kid learns about charity, whatever, and keeps the rest. Do you like picking out the perfect gift? Sausage of the month is what I get from Marjorie every year, or you're more of a re-gifting kind of person? Just, this is gift giving and you. The number is 877-30 877-301-8970. You were critical of me this morning because I was scoffing at this Venmoing, give half to charity thing for a little kid because you're allegedly going to teach your kid the beauty of giving to charity. I mean, really?
Wait, before we get to that,
What?
I'm laughing because Marjorie gives you a Sausage of the Month membership for your birthday.
Or salami of the month or bacon of the month, yes.
And she knows
My birthday or
that
Christmas.
she knows that you eat hot dogs every day. It just hit me that she's trying to kill you.
But I'm bummed. Thank you very
No,
much.
seriously.
Marjorie,
That's
you listening?
Yeah.
Call in,
Marjorie,
877.
I figured out that you're trying to kill Jim.
In any case.
No, I listen.
Can we start
I
with
think
agreement?
It's too much.
No adult gifts. Can we agree?
I absolutely
Okay.
agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, unless it depends. If this is a family member
Yeah.
and you are aware that maybe they've just moved into a new house or
Sure.
there's something that they want, I don't see anything wrong with
Okay.
that. But the kind of birthday parties where you're inviting everybody from the office,
Mm-hmm.
people have no idea what you want. Most people just bring liquor. Somebody invariably drives home drunk, and then you're on the hook for that. I think adults really should figure out other ways to have, and I think a simple happy birthday or showing up to someone's house to wish them a happy birthday, have dinner with them. I mean, I kind of get that.
Okay,
I don't
How
think
about
that's
kids?
necessary.
How about kids?
Kids, I think sometimes. It depends. I mean, you have, I firmly believe that a lot of these parties that parents give kids, particularly the idiocy of these Sweet 16, these huge Sweet 16 parties, it's parents competing with parents to impress each other about how big a party they can throw for their kids. The kids just think, I'm entitled to all of this,
So
right?
gift or no gift?
It depends. Like I said, it depends. I think no gift if it's just one of these big giant shindigs. I certainly think it's no gift. If they say don't bring a gift, then don't bring a gift.
What
Don't be
happens when 11 people do bring gifts,
Well,
even though
shame
they're
on
told
them.
not to bring gifts?
Shame on them. If you tell me not to bring a gift, that I don't have to bring a gift, or that we don't want gifts, then I'm going to honor that and I'm not going to bring a gift. Or if you tell me that you don't want gifts and I can't think of anything to give you or give your kid, then I won't bring anything.
Wow. Okay, so let me add one more thing to this conversation. Michael Norton from Harvard Business School, we had on, I don't know where he disappeared to, but we have to find him again. He wrote a fabulous book, Happy Money, The New Science of Smarter Spending. And he said two things, both of which are relevant sort of to this discussion. One, the giver often gets as much joy out of the gift, if not more, than the getter gets, the giftee. That's one. Here's the really relevant thing, and he made this case incredibly powerfully to us repeatedly, and everybody's quoting him now. If you are going to give something, an experience, giving an experience, like a trip to something, passes to the movies, rather than a thing, which is just going to be one of a number of other things that are going to pile up in this kid's room, is the best way to go. So we have a bunch of things. Should we stop giving gifts to adults altogether, except in very limited circumstances? What kind of gift giving should there be for kids? And if you give gifts at all, if you're a pro-gift giving kind of person, do you subscribe to the notion that a gifted experience is far better than a gifted thing kind of thing, if you know
And does
what I
the
mean?
pleasure of giving a gift, is there any real pleasure in it if it's just on a pile with other gifts? I mean, I understand his point about some people take. I actually give, my nieces and nephews love to come and visit me because it's like going shopping. They leave with tons and tons and tons of stuff, right? And I love that because it's my nieces and my nephews and I love them and I love giving them stuff.
I know you do, actually.
Yeah, I really do.
I know you do.
But if it's just, I know it's going to be a pile of plastic that ultimately is going to end up in a landfill somewhere, and I don't even know if the person's ever going to enjoy it, I don't think you get the same sensation.
Okay, the number's 877-301-8970. This is actually beautiful about Michael Norton's point. Anonymous texter, I always give an experience to my friends. Tickets to see Jimbo and Marge at the BPL. Yeah, unfortunately, no tickets required. 877-301-8970 is the number.
We have some sound that I think is going to make Billy from Holliston very, very happy, right? So we'll Billy from Holliston, this is for you.
We've got a problem. There's a memo here from accounting telling me there's no such thing as the human fund.
Well, there could be.
But there isn't.
Well, I could give the money back.
Yeah. George, I don't get it. If there's no human fund, those donation cards were fake. you better have a damn good reason why you gave me a fake Christmas gift.
Tell people where that's from, Andrea.
That's from Seinfeld. Billy from Holliston had just suggested to us that everybody who doesn't want to give a gift just gives a gift to the Human Fund.
What happened is George gets caught passing out fake donation cards from this made-up charity as a way to avoid buying Christmas gifts for his coworkers.
And for the most part, George is the type that would get caught. But if you did that, people might not actually know. You might be able to get away with it.
I love this. Here's an anonymous texter said, adult rule in our family is the gift needs to be eaten, drunken, or planted. That's a good thing to live by. How about that?
That's very organic.
I like that. Jackie, you're in Seekonk. You're first on the gift-giving hour here on BPR. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.
I say no to gifts for adults.
Okay.
And for kids, we bought our kids a trip. We were all gonna go to the Cape end of August. That was for Christmas. Come August, not one of them wanted to go.
Beautiful.
They all have their own lives. They're all doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Totally not interested. I had to remind them, you have this lovely gift. I'll never do it again. They're just not interested.
Well, that is a really heartwarming story, Jackie. Thank you for sharing that with us. That is beautiful.
That's what you get for thinking of people, Jackie.
Beautiful.
But how often, especially when it's a big party, you don't get the chance to ask the person what they actually want. That's the other part of it is if you ask somebody, what would you really like, then I can see getting them something that they really like. But, other than that, aren't you kind of, flying blind?
Well, yeah, but there's some sort of generic things that, most people, despite what that caller just said, most people would like a free weekend on the Cape, don't you think? Kid or adult kind of thing. They go to Water Whiz if they're a kid, or they can whatever. Here's Kate from Lakeville. Name. It's my birthday week. I sincerely hope my husband is not listening today. You know what the other thing is? You go to a big party and you give a gift. Aren't you always concerned that the person you're giving the gift to is not going to know you brought the gift and gave them the gift? Aren't you worried about that, or you're too good a person for that? Exactly. Thank you very much.
No, wait a minute. I was reading a text. What was it? What did
you give a gift, and it's a big party, and you don't want a really big gift to begin with, and you're afraid the card's going to come off, and the kid or the person's not even going to know. It's sort of like when you're tipping somebody. You want to wait till they turn to you so they can see you drop the cash into the bucket. Can you relate to that, or you're?
Well, what I usually do is I just show up and I take a card off of an existing gift and I just put a card that says that it's from me on there. I just slide it under the bow. So I've not had that problem up to now.
Here's an anonymous texter, a variation on the earlier theme. If I can't eat it, spend it, or wear it, I don't want it. That's pretty good, actually. It really is pretty good. Mary in Rhode Island, what's your deal?
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Hey guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
I agree with you 100% that adults do not need gifts. My husband and his sisters are in their 50s. We're all in our 50s, and they still get gifts for each other. It drives me crazy because they don't like it. They're just going to throw it away. It's like, I don't even get anything from my mother, and she's 92. She just wants to see me. That's all it's about now,
That's not what she told me, but that's a whole other story. Now, Mary, why do you think, if you voice your concerns to your fellow 50-year-olds, and how have they reacted if you have?
Yeah, I told my husband, why are you getting gifts? I don't buy my siblings gifts.
And what did he say?
You don't need anything.
What did he say to you?
He just doesn't agree with me. I don't know. He stresses about it. It's just silly.
Well, that's another painful
story.
A
lot of stuff
Mary,
does get re-gifted. People amass stuff and then they just give it. That SNL skit is hilarious because it's about this one candle that everybody just keeps giving. It's like the fruitcake. A fruitcake that just makes the rounds and you just keep giving it every single year. But yeah, I made that decision with all my friends. I give my nieces and nephews a certain amount of money every single Christmas, which they look forward to. Yep, and they're really happy with it. Yeah. For everybody else, all of my other relatives, even other people that I'm very close to, friends, we just decided we don't need it. We don't need it, and it's not. We just want to wish each other well, remind each other that we love each other, we support each other, and that's good enough. Yeah.
So I assume as a faithful listener of the show, that every year we do the same talk discussions with listeners that we did the year before. One of them is about regifting, and I assume you've heard Marjorie's regifting story since you mentioned regifting. Do you know this one?
No.
A very good friend of hers, whom you know, who shall remain unnamed, who's probably her best friend, gave her a particular thing, And the next day was a Christmas party at that woman's house. And Marjorie, of course, forgot to get her a gift. So Marjorie did what any person would do. She looked for a bunch of gifts she had in her house. She wrapped up the one she found to be the most appealing, put it in a wrapper, and gave it back to the woman the next day. And this woman opened it up and said, "What? This is fabulous. It looks very familiar." And that's what she had given Marjorie the day before.
I
so
would
you have
be
to be
mortified.
careful on the regifting.
Yeah, you do.
I would be mortified
I'd have to move.
too.
I'd have to move or never speak to that person again.
Okay. Jamie just wrote a note. He said, Andrea, after what you said about your nieces and nephews, I just heard from my parents, I'm your nephew. So there we go. 877-301-8970. We're talking about all things about gift giving. There seems to be a consensus, not just with you and me, but I think most of the listeners, that gift giving to adults the kibosh should be put on this. Where do you want to go?
I think we should all promise to be kinder to everybody. That would be nice. Debbie,
you don't believe we should be kinder to everybody. You believe we should be kinder to like half the population. Is that fair?
Not half the population.
Okay, exactly.
At least, well,
no, I don't
know.
So.
But
Okay,
just be kinder generally.
Okay,
Debbie in
fine.
Rhode Island. Hi, Debbie.
Hello, Debbie in Rhode Island. Hello?
What happened to Debbie?
Hi, you're on, Debbie. This is your opportunity. It's huge. Hi.
Oh, hi. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm actually in Walpole, but that's okay.
Oh, we love Walpole. Thank
somehow
you.
we thought you were from Rhode Island.
Yeah, close enough.
Okay. I recently attended a wedding where the bride and groom were going to be relocated to Alaska.
Wow.
And their wedding thing was they did not want any money, but if people so chose, they had a listing of outdoor Alaskan activities that if people wanted to contribute to help them acclimate to their new environment.
That's a good idea.
One of them was an outdoor spa during the winter time, which is what I contributed to because I thought that would be so neat
That's
to do.
fabulous. Fabulous.
A jacuzzi in the winter time. But yeah, just, activities. That's commemorative.
The one exception to activities, if they're moving to Alaska, you could have bought them binoculars so they could see Russia from their house, Thank you for that, Debbie. Thank you for
and while we're on the subject, if you've got to go to a destination wedding,
Debbie.
you shouldn't have to bring a gift. If you've got to pay to go to a destination wedding, to have to buy a gift on top of that seems a bit excessive.
What do you think about this on our top? I am actually going to a destination wedding in an exotic locale of France, actually, in September. What do you think of that to begin? I'm very excited, so I'm not going to say anything bad. You can say something bad. What do you think about destination weddings in general, where it takes a lot of money to get there?
I think it's great that you want to be married there, but I think that you have to consider that not everybody that you might want to be at your wedding can afford to be in your desired location. And so I think it's unfortunate that people it hasn't happened to me, but people have shelled out a lot of money. People that I know very well have shelled out a lot of money to go to, and additionally bought gifts. It's very expensive. And then once you're there, you're expected to do activities there and contribute to the activities there with groups of people who are attending the wedding. It's a bit much.
One other thing before we go back to the calls, this whole notion that you and I were discussing this morning, started to discuss on the show, about saying to people attending a particular party, no gifts.
Right.
Now, intellectually, I am totally there, and that's the position I want to take. But isn't there a piece of you that wants gifts, even though you're saying to people you don't want them?
No,
really?
I'm a Sagittarius. I attach myself to people, not to things.
Do?
Yeah, I have a very easy come, easy go attitude toward things and money and stuff like that. So that doesn't bother me. I think if you invite people to a party at your house and you say, we just want to see you, that's enough.
What
right?
if you don't mean it when you say it?
Well, if you don't mean it, then don't say it. If you want people to bring
I don't want to
gifts,
see them at all. I just
You
want
just
the
want
gifts.
the gifts?
Exactly.
Then be honest about that and see how much stuff you
You don't have to come. Just drop
You're
off
greedy,
the gift.
you're greedy
And see,
so-and-so.
I've gotten some great things through the years, not the least of which
I've
is
never
sausage
given you
of the
anything
month.
ever again now that
You
I know
actually
this
have given me
ugly
things
side
in
of
the-
you.
you have
I have
given me
given
things
you.
in the past.
But you have given me really nice stuff too.
I
as
have
well.
too, which is
Yeah.
really good of me, I
Yeah.
should say. Sandy from Arlington, you're next on BPR with Andrea Cabral and me, Jim Browdy. Hi, we're talking about gift giving. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I totally agree with the experience idea. I'm going to celebrate my 80th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Next month. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
And my nephews asked me what I wanted to do or what I wanted for my birthday. And I said, I just, want to get together with the family and friends. And they came up with the idea of one lives in California and one lives in Rochester, New York. So I said, so they came up with the idea of all of us going to Chicago for the Nate Bargatze concert.
Oh,
which I thought was a wonderful idea, because at 80 I don't want stuff. I'm trying to get rid of stuff. So that was a perfect idea for me, and I'm totally looking forward to the whole experience.
You're going to Chicago to see Nate Bargatze?
Yes.
That's fabulous. You know he's going to be at the Garden for 3 performances.
He's,
you know
he's
that?
hilarious. Yeah, well, the idea was also to get me out of Boston, too. I mean,
that's a great thing.
I could see a lot of comedians in Boston, but the idea was to get everybody kind of meeting in the middle.
I love that.
And it didn't go along with everybody's schedule, though, so we're going to the October concert in Chicago.
Well, happy birthday,
Terrific.
and I hope you enjoy it. I don't know if you ever heard the great story, speaking of Chicago, about going an experience. Callie has a bunch of friends that she's been friendly with forever. And remember when early days of Hamilton when nobody could get tickets?
Yep.
You could get tickets in some other towns. They bought tickets in Chicago. I think I got this right. Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong. I think they flew in the morning. They had lunch. They saw Chicago, and I saw Hamilton, and I believe they flew back the same. I mean, that's a pretty great experience,
It is.
don't you think?
Those kinds of things that you do with friends are great. The other suggestion that I have is that if you can also set limits on gifts, right? So even for friends and family, one of our texters said, no gifts for brothers and sisters, maybe a Starbucks gift card for a few bucks. Well, what if you have...
That same person said, so my husband instead donated to GBH and the Civil Liberties
Which is
Union.
fabulous.
Yes.
But what if you just say, look, we're not going to really give gifts, but I know you get coffee every single morning.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a gift card that'll carry you through the rest of the year. That's a great gift that you know is going to be used, and there's not a lot of heavy lifting to get it. You could give stuff like that.
I agree in the abstract.
Or
about
say
a
nothing over
ceiling.
$25.
But what's that horrible Christmas thing that people do, that swap crap? What's that thing called?
It's a Secret Santa or a Yankee swap.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
That is like hell on earth. Can we agree? It's essentially you buy crap and you pass crap around to all your friends and coworkers, and then they go home with a different piece of crap than they came with. Is
But
that
they
a fair
bring that
description?
crap to the next year's
Exactly.
Yankee swap, and then everybody
Exactly.
laughs when they see it.
Exactly.
So.
Marianne, you're also in Rhode Island, or maybe in Walpole. We don't know. Welcome to the show. Hi.
I know. What's the slew of Rhode Island called?
Because you're from Rhode Island, obviously. Hello. What's up?
Hi.
Hi.
Yep. So I've called before. I love your show.
Well, thank you.
Here's what I had to say.
What do you have to say?
My grandkids from California just came for a visit.
Well, that's nice.
Normally, I take them out to eat reasonable places.
Sure.
This time, I went all full expense.
Oh.
And instead of giving them money to go home and buy school clothes, I took them out individually to shop for clothes.
That's
and then we went out
fabulous.
to dinner, just us. And it was, I want them to remember me, not when they inherit some money and they don't have any memory. So that's what I have to say.
That is a beautiful
That is.
call.
It's fabulous.
I thought where you're going, it's a variation of theme. The best gift, in my opinion, if you're going to give something, is a restaurant thing.
That's because
small
you do nothing but eat.
That's correct. That is absolutely true. Often at restaurants, like a small independent neighborhood restaurant in your community, you get a gift card, you're helping the business, you're having a fabulous
going
meal, you
local.
remember it. Most of us have food memory. Do you have food memory? You remember what you ate at a particular location?
Oh, sometimes, yeah.
I do. So that's a really nice thing in my estimation. Marianne, thank you very much.
But that
for
is
the
a
call.
great idea, especially during back to school time, either taking them out to do their shopping, either for school supplies or for clothes, or saying, you know what, you need new electronics for the school year, because now that's sort of mandatory. You got to have a laptop, you got to have an iPad, you got to have something. Seeing whether or not you can help parents buy the new electronics for the school year.
You know what a great idea is? You should agree to help the parents pay for the tariff that's been added to the product that you're buying your kid. It's like a tariff gift. How about that? It's whatever tariff you're paying on everything you buy. You'd be perfect for this, by the way, because you could spout off about your favorite person at the
You're a
same
trip.
time.
All right, well, we have
By the
time
way,
for
have you
one.
heard-
Do we have time for another call before
Yes,
Jared gets on?
1 minute for Kathy from
All right.
Westport.
Hi, Kathy.
Take it away, Kathy.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I'm a Gigi to 7 grandchildren.
Oh, great.
I took
Hi.
6 of them to the adventure park at Heritage Plantation.
Oh, my God.
I gave them the gift for Christmas.
Sounds
they
like hell.
did the rope course, and they had a fabulous time.
They did?
Oh, they had a fabulous time. They're all little boys and one little girl, and they were like nuts. They didn't want to leave. When the park closed, they wanted to do it again. They wore harnesses in the trees, and they loved it. I sat out and watched them and took pictures. So that was their experience.
Okay, harnesses in the trees.
Listen,
now, there you go.
Gets kids out. It's
Kathy,
not
that's
screens.
beautiful.
It's fabulous.
Yeah.
Good for you, Kathy.
It is. It's a lovely harness story. If you're into harnesses, it's no. I mean, it's obviously that worked out terribly well.
You want to leave the kids hanging up there and then come back and get them a few hours later?
Or not,
fine.
if that's your preference. Yeah. Okay, this is the opportunity we have to have. What's his name? Jared on the show.
What's his name?
I forgot his name for 1 second. Jared.
And hey, John, what's up?
I'm good. Now, let me say,
You're
I would
feeling
assume
underappreciated?
this is another area where you probably have fairly strong opinions. Gift giving, is that correct?
I do.
Oh, let's hear them, please, Jared.
Yeah, so surprise party, awful. Gifts, slightly less than awful. Experiences, fabulous. I love experiences. That's the only thing I remember giving people over the years are experiences. And then you get excited, you look forward to it. I gave my parents a couple trips that I think I'll remember for the rest of my life. I have a friend who wanted to go to this Michelin-starred restaurant in New York. That was a big birthday present for her. So much fun.
Wow. By the way, you just suggested Jamie. He's a great topic we have never done, so it's not a moldy chestnut. Surprise parties.
Ugh.
Let me tell you, I am so with you, by the way. There is nothing worse than a surprise party. Can we agree on that?
I like a surprise party where the surprise is you didn't get him anything.
That's pretty good. Okay, so Jared, what are you doing on the show there?
We're starting off with Robert Reich, who is
his new book.
He has just written a new book. It's called Coming Up Short, a memoir of my America. It's actually less about him, more about this country and a lot of things that he's been observing for years that are coming to fruition in this moment. So we'll talk about that. And then we have Frank and Joe Ciotta, two Massachusetts natives who are big in the filmmaking business, and they've just made this film set in Italy called Casino in Ischia. We'll talk to them. And then Phoebe Potts is here. Jim, I know you've talked to her too.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going Thursday night to the play in Central Square. Go ahead, tell people what it is.
So it's called Too Fat for China, and it's a story that she has written and illustrated. All of it comes to the fore on the stage about her efforts to adopt.
It is. I saw it in the Gloucester, whatever the little beautiful theater up there in Gloucester, and it's about her effort to adopt from a bunch of countries and some of the crap you have to. I mean, both my kids are from China, so I lived part of that experience. She's fabulous. The play is fabulous, and you'll enjoy the interview, and it's a great thing to go to. Jared, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Jared.
Thanks so much for being here.
All right. Does that wrap it up for us?
This is where you say thank you for listening.
Maybe I won't.
Maybe you won't.
No, I will. Thanks for listening to another edition of BPR. We thank everybody who came down to the BPL to see the show. Thank you, guys. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast. Check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio and tune in tomorrow. Jim is hosting with local woman or local maven, depending on who's talking to her, Sue O'Connell. They're going to talk with GBH Executive Arts Editor Jared Bowen, who you just heard, Presidential Historian Doris Kearns-Goodwin, State Auditor Diane DeZoglio, and an MGH panel on summer safety with Toby Raybold and Dr. Mike Flaherty. Our wonderful crew is Zoe Matthews, Aidan Connolly, Nicole Garcia, and Hannah Loss, with additional support from intern extraordinaire Nia Harmon, to whom we say goodbye this week. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. Special thanks to the BPL staff, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Juan Jose Cadena, and Elaine Gonzalez. Thanks to our hosts at the Newsfeed Cafe and across the street at the Lennox Hotel. Stay tuned to The Culture Show with Jared Bowen, immediately starting on 89.7 GBH. I'm Andrea Cabral.
And you were fabulous as always, Andrea
Thank
Cabral.
you very
I'm
much.
Jim Browdy.
Have a great afternoon. We hope you tune in again tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.